Hello, everybody, and welcome back to continuing coverage of RCI 6 Hours of Watkins, Glen, part of the RCI 6-Hour Esports Championship. I'm Jesse Lee here with Ted Edwards to bring you all the way to the checkered flag and beyond here today with new broadcaster Kevin, the Boss Man Boss, bringing you the pictures and descriptions of what's going on out there. And you've joined us right when the majority of the field are completing their third pit stop of the day. Ted, welcome in. And I know you've been sitting around, you've been watching the race so far. What are your thoughts initially of the first half of the 6 hours of Watkins Glen?
It's been a crazy first half of this race, Jesse. Compared to the last week's community race, obviously these guys are fighting for more of a prize pool than what we were fighting for. So there's more at stake. But yeah, these guys are just top level drivers in my eyes, and there's been a bit of a rough and a tumble between some of the cars, and as you can see, there are some more penalties that have came through during our little break between switching. So yeah, it's just a different level of driving or sim racing, should you say? But it's been entertaining. It's been exciting. There's been some mouth-opening moments where some of the contacts are questionable, but that's what just happens in racing, Jesse.
Yeah, there's been a couple of dives that have been questionable. There's been a couple of moves that are questionable as well, but there's also been a ton of great racing. Les Stevenson said it best earlier on. He didn't know that you could go too wide through some of these corners, and the same as me. I've raced here a lot over the years in stock cars and stuff like that in the virtual sense, and I certainly have never chanced it, but some of the moves, some of the things these drivers have been able to accomplish today and make it look easy is absolutely incredible. The lack of issue getting onto and off of pit road as far as the blend line is concerned has been very, very nice to see. One thing I also wouldn't have predicted, considering the length and distance it is to the timing line for pit in, we've seen a lot of stop and goes, and I don't know what that is. There is a slight decline in pit road, and it sort of ramps up the further you get down. I don't know if that has something to do with it, or maybe they're just trying to maximize to the line coming off the corner, speeding up and then slowing back down. But we've seen a lot of them. Cargatel, the most recent one, currently serving a stop and go 30. We've seen the RCI Esports team get involved with that, a couple other teams as well, getting speeding penalties on pit lane. We've seen our first drive-through. You mentioned that a little bit as well. Been a lot of mistakes exiting the bus stop as well. A couple of those have been absolutely fatal. Most recently, Shar in the 72 Ferrari hard into the wall. They would be the second car that we've seen do that, and this is the conclusion of the third round of pit stops. Jade Hutchinson had taken the lead in the number 38 Ford. Abeladze did their pit stop a lap or so ago. Naldi also in the lane, and Rotors in the 89. This is the car we're looking at, isn't it, Ted? The BS Plus Competition 89 mid-season sign-up, had that grid spot penalty, didn't qualify exactly where we thought they would anyway, but man, what that car lacked in qualifying and what that car lacked in grid position, they've shown up and shown out in the race as the prime competitor to the 255 competition car.
Yeah, sure as, and only 2.3 seconds behind, and they were way out of the top 10. From what I was watching and hearing from Liz and Malcolm, and it's just like, hang on a minute, because I didn't see the start. I caught up with it with some of the incidents, but yeah, I just joined in, and they were on about the 89, how they've just come all the way through the pack. It's just like, geez, that's pretty quick, and that just reminds me of one of the cars in the community series. One of the esports cars that's in this race was in the community. They can do that. They can get a little bit of practice the week before, and I think it was the car 996 in 15th place. They're an Asian team, and they were really quick, and they did an early pit stop like 10 minutes in, and then just plowed their way straight through the pack. And it's just one of those moments where you go, damn, mate, these are quick people. They know what they're doing with this car. They know what they're doing with the setup. They know how it works. They know all their braking points. They're just getting everything perfect, and you don't really want anything to go wrong with that car, because not that we want anything to go wrong with anyone's car. It's just like, oh, you want them to keep going and just keep going. Like, they've already dropped 2/10 since I've been talking about them now, so they are catching, and it's just like, I wonder what pit strat or tyre strat they're on, because tyre strategy is pretty crazy in this race, as we found out last week.
Well, Eric Del Fonte for MG ITJ Setups, that 179 Ferrari has just overtaken Stubenausch for the 9th place position. The 45 called dead to rights, and that Ferrari trending in the right direction. Haven't talked a lot today about balance of performance, and that's mostly because the BOP seems pretty darn good. We've got a really healthy mix of cars in the top 10, and that's not something we could have said a month ago, where we had, I think it was half, if not more, of the top 10 at some points were all Aston Martins. The track combination, the weather, certainly favoring that particular manufacturer and chassis. Not the case today. Of course, we still have Abeladze, the 255 competition, out in front, but I think that has a lot more to do with 255 competition and Abeladze than it has to do with what car. I'm confident that they would be at the sharp end regardless of what logo they had on the front of their car.
Yeah, the BOP's been really good this race. Obviously, last month was Silverstone in the rain, and the Ford Mustang was pretty good. It wasn't the best, but it was very stable. The Aston Martin, though, was just on the next level, and makes me feel a little bit queasy when I talk about that car and how good it is in the rain. But yeah, here this week, and obviously last week, it's a very, very good balance. Just looking back at the community race and who finished where, you got a Lamborghini and then 2 Bentleys, followed by Aston and a McLaren, and then the Mustang. So it's pretty balanced, and there's a Porsche in there as well, 8th place. So, you know, very balanced between all the cars. You got you know, mid-engine, rear-engine, front-engine. They're all pretty good. You know, Bentley never used to be anywhere near that, but with this BOP, it's just brought that Bentley back into its place again, and it is nice to see the old boat come in. But here we go.
Oh, this is dangerous.
The chicane. Oh, bit of contact on the rear left there on the Ferrari end. They do single file into the bus stop, but it's sketchy trying to go too wide in there. Done it a few times, but you do have to commit. If you're on that inside, you have to commit to what you want to do, because if you both back out at the same time, you are going to go in for a bit of a spin.
Well, Bastian Richter will not appreciate David Pertil doing exactly what they did. I would argue that the 32 gave just enough room, a Aston Martin's car width of room to the left side of the track to the grass, and that's all you really have to give. I mean, you can't really give somebody a penalty for squeezing them, but that was as close as you possibly could have done. Good heads-up driving, but that will frustrate Bastian Richter for Rinwelton right there, that they were afforded absolutely no space. And, of course, no real fault of the Pertil and the Coach Dave Academy 32. They got to do what they got to do to defend that position, and they racing so much about getting as close to being out of order, out of line as possible without actually going over that line. And nobody knows that more than these top teams. You're talking about Coach Dave, Rinwelton's up here, of course, BS Plus Competition. And don't forget that fantastic Ford team, that number 38, who have exploded on the scene, STR Esports, in my opinion, in the past year or so. I get to call them in other series and have done for a little while, and they've certainly held their own and showed up in a major way. Look at this. Bastian Richter getting a better run up the S's now, and we're on our way to the bus stop. He's going to be there. They're going to make a little bit of light contact there. No harm, no foul, no issue, but they're going to be side by side. Will anybody back out? Not really, but of course having to brake earlier was Pertil, and that's going to lose them that spot. And a lap later, after nearly being ran out of room, Bastian Richter is able to convert that position, and up into 4th place is the 71 of Rinwelton.
Yeah, it's crazy, and if you're not really in the known about the racing and why these guys are trying to push each other to the edge of the track, but they're trying to get the best line to go into that chicane, because the curves, they don't look too bouncy from where we're seeing it. But when you're actually in the car and you hit them in any, I think it's any car nowadays, but especially with the rework of the suspension in this sim, it's so bouncy and it can easily just whip your rear end out and you're gone. You're sideways and going towards barrier, or you just spin out. But they're trying to get as much of a better line for themselves if they can make it in front of that other car they're trying to overtake, as we saw with those two cars there for the 2 laps. And you want to be as far left here as you can, so you see both these Mustangs here, and then they go and they cut a bit of this first curb, a bit of the second curb, and you're just tickling the curbs. Before you could like drive over the full length of the curb, but it's really bumpy now, and you don't really want to give yourself a puncture on the tyre or a slow puncture at that. But yeah, so these guys know how close they can get to each other. Obviously, you see some of the bumps and scrapes and a bit of door bang, and you see the car wobble, but it's only a little brush. But we've seen it before early on in this race, where if you get that rear panel and the front panel connected, one of the cars will end up going towards a barrier, and that's not what you really want. Going up to the bus stop.
No, it's really not, and it's something that in GT racing that I experienced way late. You run a lot of laps at a racetrack, you think you understand it, but you change discipline and it races completely different. And of course, they've changed the curbs here over the years as well. But if you're used to driving big, heavy stock cars or racing machines that have really soft suspension, you don't really care as much. What you really worry about is getting over the back of a curb, hooking it, and then tossing the whole car in the air like a pogo stick. That's kind of what's happening, except they're not running over the back of the curb. They don't have to. These cars are so low to the ground. The suspension is so hard that if you hit it wrong or get too much of one of these curbs, and keep in mind, there's not what we would traditionally call sausage curbs. These are just elevated curbs, but they will throw the car around. We've seen it pitch some cars into the wall. We saw it on lap 1. We've seen it just recently. Oh, completely missing the corner there was Shang Li for Drive Just Boys. That was very interesting. I want to see what happened to that Mustang. Were they just following too closely, following another Mustang, and just sort of got exactly what we're talking about. Went over the back of the curb. Exactly what we were just talking about. Can't do it.
Yeah, they were in the slipstream with the Mustang in front and just had a bit too much speed, missed the braking point. Luckily, got on the brakes just in time and didn't slip the rear out. And they just missed the first curb, which then sends you deep into the second one. As we saw, it bounces like crazy. The Mustang used to be able to take curbs really easily when it first came out. Felt a little bit of a cheat for the car, as it felt too smooth. Obviously now Kunos have evened that out, which is very nice. It makes it more friendly against, or racing against the other cars. As we see here, the Aztec car moving to the left with the
Using
indicator
the
on.
indicators. Yeah.
Very nice.
But still, oh man. Oh, it's going to be a mistake.
There we
The
go.
202's in there. The 202 are Sonati's in there. And the Aston Martin exits stage right to avoid further calamity. Ted, what went wrong here?
No, it looks like the Aztec car just didn't see there was another car behind them. Went deep and caught that curb like we just seen and did the bounce, and luckily just kept it out of the wall, as you see here coming back across the grass. But that was lucky for all parties in that incident there. That was very close. Just even though these are esports drivers, a bit of lack of concentration, focusing on the car that's next to them at the time and not knowing there's a car behind them. That could have gone so much worse, Jesse.
Yeah, it could have been, and we've seen that. That's a nail-biting moment anytime you get in that situation. We could tell before they even made it to the turn-in for the bus stop that something was going wrong there, and it just... it could have been a lot worse. I don't think any major damage was done. Maybe a new pair of trousers, perhaps, necessary for that. Well, a little more than 2.5 hours to go in today's race, and we will see exactly who will come out on top. Will it be the 89 or the 255 that look to be the front runners for sure? Bastian Richter, though, in the 71 has retaken the fast lap of the race. Here is Louis Roders in the BS Plus competition car. I will say I was noticing something earlier. No matter who's in the 255, they were invalidating more than any other team, as if they were pushing harder. And you worry about that with track limits being a thing. Were they pushing a little bit too hard? Are they going to have to rein it in a little bit? And could that lose them a competitive edge? Well, whatever it is, Louis Roders in the 89 Lamborghini for BS Plus competition has run down the 255 for the second time today. 2 hours ago, this exact scenario played out, it seemed, and now it's happening again. Less than a second between the top two. It was as much as 5 seconds earlier on in the day, and it is now back under that magical 1 second. And Ted, you know as good as I do, if you can see them, you think you can catch them, and I reckon the 89 can catch them.
Yeah, even though there's not many straights on this track, every straight helps, especially when you're under the 1 second, which is basically slipstream. The closer you get, the stronger the slipstream gets. And just looking at the last laps for the 255, sorry, in the 89, the leading car did a 1 minute 45 dead, whereas the 89 car, BS competition, they did a 144.6, and they just did a 144.5 compared to the 144.9, about 145 of the 255 in front, and so that's 4/10 a lap, Jesse. And I can see why the 255 is pushing like crazy, because they're getting a little bit worried, especially if you're tyre saving. Still the tyres, it's not easy as we found out. I mean, I found out last week in the Mustang. You'll be fine. We let, as Les and Malcolm said earlier, we let Daly take two sets at the beginning of the first 2 hours, we could give them the last two. And it was fine for the first stint, and then the second stint, we just lost all time. It was just so weird, but we had the best tyres, double-stinted tyres, of most of the grid. So that hits into effect when you start losing your time. You need to push more. I pushed more, and you're just not getting the time back, and you start to worry, like, cars behind are catching me, but we're in a really good position right now. We're going to lose this. What about the long term? You've still got 2 hours and 30 minutes left. Are we able to catch this car back again, or is this where we're going to finish today?
Yeah, you mentioned the Bentleys earlier on as well. I wanted to touch on that. The BOP isn't really that bad with them, but both the Bentleys in this race, both RCI cars, they've had just a horrible day of racing here. They cannot wait to leave upstate New York after the day. They came in sort of optimistic that they had a good chance, good shot. They would have seemed like shoe-ins for maybe top 10, top 15 finishes, but just problem after problem for both of them. It's one of those, when it rains, it pours situations here today. We'll see if they can rebound and see if anything can take place. Being told, we are reading chat, of course, that there may be some sort of audio issue going on. We'll continue to try and work on that in the background. Don't you worry. Thank you very much for letting us know that you can hear that, and we'll try to sort that out as we continue to race along here. We'll show you the battle for the lead. Abeladze, Roders, top two, 255 competition and BS Plus competition. Right back. 1 second. We're going to try and sort our audio issue. All right, hopefully we've sorted out our audio issue here. This is the battle for the lead. These two, Ted, no stranger to each other. They compete all across the esports space here in ACC against each other, often head-to-head in these team configuration. Roders knows Abeladze. Abeladze knows Roders. There's no stranger among them for the lead here. It's just another day in the office. The difference is Abeladze's got to figure out how to make that Aston a little bit wider than it normally is.
Yeah, and then trying to make a car wide around here is not too difficult. I was doing it with some of the faster guys. We were in silver and we had some pros behind, and we were racing for position. Didn't have to give it up, so I was like, I'll just take my normal lines and go a little bit defensive. And I had someone sit behind me for a good 4 laps, and in the end I made a little mistake and they got by. But that's, you know, that's what you got to do if you want to try and stay in front of someone. And this Aston Martin can easily do the same. Good in the corners, good on the exits. And Lamborghini, I'm not too sure about the Lamborghini nowadays. I haven't seen it for a while until this esports event that started, God, a couple of months ago now, Jesse. It's been some time, halfway through, and yeah, it's looking like the Lamborghini has some legs again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They didn't seem to have whatever they needed in that middle stint, which was weird because it seems like whatever performance advantage had shifted to the 255, now it's gone back the other way. And I can't rightly tell you what the big issue was in that middle stint and why it's different now with less than 3 hours to go. But it is that way. I can tell you, Bastian Richter took the quickest lap from Abeladze a little bit ago, but something sort of, it's ebbing and flowing. It's going back and forth, and this is the perfect kind of race. Les told us in private when we were coming in the booth and he's leaving, he said, man, I really hope that 89 can catch the 255 and make this an interesting finish. And it certainly has exactly happened like that with 2 hours to go. And there's no guarantee either, is there, Ted? If BS Plus Competition gets by 255, there's no guarantee that they're just going to be able to drive away. There's no guarantee that the Aston won't have another trick up their sleeve and respond. This could just be a part of the strategy after all.
Well, exactly. What if they've done what I saw some of the drivers do, and some of the teams, was they singles did the first set and then did 2 doubles, and then for the last stint did a single, and that seemed really quick. Obviously, it's going to be a lot colder for the last hour or so. And you're going to be so much quicker on those new tyres. But yeah, we just have to wait and see. I did see some strat where I think it was the 996, which is the 14th place car now. They were in ours last week, and they pitted, I think, like 15-20 minutes into the first stint, which is very odd. But then they went back out on the same tyres, just fueled up, and it's like they did their splash and dash that you would normally do at the end of a race at the beginning, which was a different strategy I've never seen, Jesse, but it looked like it paid off for them. They did have a connection issue at the end, which made them disconnect, unfortunately, both their teams having the same problem. But yeah, they were flying. So just different strats all around, and that's what I like about this. When you have a limited set of tyres, it's not like, oh, you can take tyres every 65 minutes or an hour, and that's fine. You actually have to think, what do we do?
Yeah, the interesting thing about strategy in this race is we started, the track temperature was above 30 degrees. It may have been 30 degrees exactly whenever we started, and the only car that elected to double stint was this car, the Renwelton 71 with Bastian Richter, and they very nearly took the lead of the race doing that, or they did take the lead technically at the time. They were then passed by the 255. Speaking of, Richter's just going to go ahead and lick the stamp, send it in there. Space afforded to him by Jade Hutchinson as they go through the chute, and position change. Bastian Richter for Renwelton back into third. Jade Hutchinson and that entire Ford team has done this all day, Ted, if you've noticed. They're up inside the top 5, top 3 frequently, and they're on a different strategy, but they're not fighting the other teams because they know that everybody's on a different strategy. They must believe that they're on the right strat, and they're not fighting people. That's the smart thing to do. If you believe in your strategy, if you believe in what you're going to do later is going to benefit you versus everyone else, there's no reason to fight them and lose more time than you would normally.
Well, yeah, a good example is this is our Wednesday series on iRacing with the MX-5s. You're all in the same car, you all got the same power, but if you bump draft each other and you help with slipstream, you can go and fight the cars in front, or you don't. Neither of you lose time. But if you start fighting, that's when you start dropping back to the guys behind. You start losing all those seconds you've gained, and that's when you start ruining your race. And even here, different machines, different BOPs, but still close together. you still can ruin your own races. But these two guys here are going to be fighting. The 71 behind is 17 seconds behind. Keep an eye on this number, because obviously the Aston Martin doesn't want to give way to the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini wants to get past. Going to try and make some moves. Just have to wait and see where we're at now. 17 seconds before this timing line. Let's see what happens in 20 minutes time.
Well, we are reading chat as we always are here at RCI TV, and Joe Dauber chimed in earlier and said, I see none of these pros have chosen the Porsche. Of course, Joe Dauber, a big fan of the Porsche. Well, you know, there might be a strategic reason why they haven't selected the Porsche, but you never can tell. Most recently, Sim Race Life just said the 71 is the only car running 1 minute 43s. That is correct. They're also the quickest. Well, I mean, obviously that does mean that they're the quickest car on the racetrack, but you can clearly see with the magenta number that they are the quickest car on the racetrack. What does that do? Well, they're 17 seconds, a little bit less than that now, down on the top two, but with 2 hours, 20-some minutes left to play, that is not a bridge or a gap too far, especially if they're going to be the quickest car by a few tenths a lap, some margin. In fact, they're 15.5. They gained significantly just in that sector alone from the top two. It's not over. Could the 71 of Rinwelton have something to say about this? Talked a lot about 255 competition and BS Plus competition. What about the other team in there, the third horseman of the apocalypse? What about Rinwelton? Talk about them, the history they have with these top teams as well, getting into the mix. And you never can look past any of them. Certainly not here today as well. Took another 10th out of the lead, did Bastian Richter for Rinwelton in that middle sector as well. Here comes Shang Li for Drive Just Boys down the inside of the 74. It's going to get just enough space, and that move has been completed. The Bentley not for position. That car's on a different lap currently and will have to pick their way through quite carefully indeed. But for Shang Li, that's another spot up to 13th for Drive Just Boys. This is a heck of a run for that team.
Yeah, they'll be up to I think 13th in the second as Delvante's in the 179. They just had a spin at the last corner a lap or so ago, so they've come in to either swap tyres or just take some fuel, cool off them, cool off the tyres a little bit, and they'll be back out again. We've got, I think we did have another car that was in the pit lane. I didn't see the number in time, but some people, yeah, just different strats, Jesse. I can't actually call what is going on with some of these cars. Obviously, these guys are quick, so I'm not going to be able to see who is on double sinted tyres unless we get into battle for position, and then you'll be able to see the difference in tyres with entry and exit speeds through corners, like the bus stop chicane and through the boot section of this track, which is a fun track, Jesse. I think this is my favourite track in ACC by far. Oh, look at that curve! That curve has the little bump on the as you get to the end of the curve, and the 74 found it and loses the position to the 42 of Home Sim Racing Esports. But yeah, well,
I can guarantee it's not his favorite track right now after that, after bouncing over the curves like that. I'm a Donington fan. I think Donington's probably the best track in ACC. I know some people will certainly disagree with that, but it's just such a perfect racetrack. But second to Donington, and a close second.
Okay, you changed my mind.
Watkins, Glen. It's just, and they're very similar.
Yep.
The two tracks. They're fast. They're old school circuits. They've somehow survived the test of time. They've been modernized without ruining the character of the racetracks. They're absolutely brilliant. They race completely differently, but they're very similar in the fact that they feel very old school, very 60s, very 70s, but
very flowing.
Lovely. They're very flowing indeed. And we get to the boot section of Watkins Glen, which is what we're in right now. It does feel like going through McLean's a little bit to me.
Yeah, it's both tracks. It's just the
Mike
flow.
Redford with the chaotic neutral answer of Alton Park. Can we all just pause for a minute, look at Mike Redford, and just ask him why? which we have done. I hate to single somebody out, but that is the most chaotic neutral answer to that question I've ever heard. Alton Park. I think our chief steward, Phil Roberts, might agree with that, actually. I think Alton Park's probably their favorite as well. It is the Roberts ring, as Kevin Boss, our broadcaster, has mentioned. Hey, we weren't the only ones that did a cheeky little changeover about 30 minutes or so ago. We had Tom the Mailman Roberts in race control for the first time in a long time. I had to check my calendar to figure out what year it was that the Mailman was race controlling, but we've got the self-appointed sexiest man in RCI, I think, or is that a fan vote? I'm not sure. Grim Lilith in there, though, for the time being. He'd have my vote, but that's just one man's opinion, man.
Man-to-man voting. So,
well,
yeah. Oh.
Joe Tolliver has answered Mike Redford with an exceptionally wrong on that one. But I love Alton Park. I love how difficult it is. But, you know, it's even more difficult than Alton Park trying to make a pass in this corner when you're nearly matched on speed. Zurban down to the inside for Visceral, and I think Bodota just backed out there just to let him go. Ted, we've seen a lot of that today, a lot of cooperation, even though you're racing for positions. Why would you just back out? Is it the racetrack doing that, or is it just drivers being nice today in general?
I think it's just being sensible. Especially if you're on double-sided tyres, you don't want to ruin your tyres anymore. We've gone through that corner and we had a little touch from one of the cars that are in this race, won't name, but we got spun around and Daly's tyres got ruined, and they were ruined for a few laps, and they were new tyres and they were not being double stinted. So it's one of those things where you don't want to end up having a little incident. You don't want to be the one that maybe has closed the door and it could be your fault and you can get a penalty. But oh, here we go, the Mustang and its legs beating the V8 AMG. That's actually crazy, as we know the Mercedes used to be a really quick car back in the day before the Aston Martin got its buff, as we like to say, because it was pretty slow with its turbo lag, and there was no Mustang, and the AMG was probably one of the ones that was preferably picked for for the front engine cars. And that was before the M4 was here. That was when the M6. So that was quite a long time ago, Jesse. And it just shows that Mustang does have good straight line speed.
Oh, watch out! It could be a spin, and it will be. How Long in the 24 5-star Racing Ace car has been put into the wall. That had bad business written all over it. Let's take you back. This is coming through the chute. This is exiting the chute. How Long was just, I don't know. That's unfortunate just to get turned there into the wall. That's huge damage on that 127, and that is going to really put a damper on a day for them where, I mean, honestly, it wasn't looking too awful bad for that team racing here today, but that was unfortunate. You never want to get hooked, and it's hard to say, was one car not over far enough? Was were they converging? The camera angles can sometimes lie to us. Certainly something for the stewards. Mike Redford has piped up. He's defending his right to love Alton Park, which he shouldn't do. He shouldn't have to. He doesn't have to, obviously. But he says, I've gone full chat through Druids IRL, and there's nothing better than that. Well, you could come to Watkins Glen and barbecue your brakes in one lap, because that's what this place does to road cars whenever you take the circuit tour around here. It will murder the brakes because of the elevation change. But that is very well said, Mr. Redford. Rebecci in the 51 Vista Sport car has been involved in some bother here today, but has rebounded pretty nicely. Now looking for a spot back inside the top 20. The only problem with that is Sorelli has it, and Luke Whitehead wants by both of them.
Oh, and now the 51 goes for a
he
slide.
Saved it.
He did. Oh, more contact with the Aston Martin, but 51 not very happy about that after turning someone there just a lap ago. Obviously, we don't know whose fault that was. Like you say, Jesse, one car could have turned in a bit too much. The other one could have not turned in enough.
Yeah, the
That's
camera's
why we've got
misleading, and that's
stewards.
why I
Oh,
refuse to. I
yep.
refuse to, you know, make any judgment call because we see it from the camera's perspective, and it's hard to really say. We can say that 3 into 1 doesn't go, and oh yeah, it's just
It's the same here.
that's just unfortunate. I think they just kind of hit fenders. Now that was a little bit extra, but I think the initial contact was a lot more innocent than it may have appeared. It just so happened that both cars were loaded up into the corner, so you're going to get shot out whenever you make contact. I just think that the elongated fender wells of the cars touched, and it created a bad situation for everybody.
Yeah.
Redford said, remember when the AMG was a beast on the straight? Yeah, I remember when Imola came out as well. Those were the days.
The days. Well, the Aston Martin in front did get past. I don't think. I don't know what I'm looking at, Jesse. On the timing on the left, the Ferrari is behind the BMW. I'm very confused there. So I'm not sure who was fighting who. As we come back,
well, they were definitely fighting each other.
Yes, but I don't know if they're for
orientation.
position. Yeah. Well, we're back here with the 89 and 255, still fighting. The Lamborghini still behind. With 3/10. I don't know if that is their own plan or if the Aston Martin's found its grip again. Like I say, these guys just know how to look after tyres, know what they're doing. Whereas some of us in the community series are just trying to relearn how everything works again in an endurance setting. Obviously, a lot of us do the weekday racing either here at RCI or wherever else. Mondays and Saturdays are our ACC days at the moment in time, and Wednesdays is our RI racing. So, you know, quite a lot of us jump between the two sims, and they are very different. But these guys obviously drive a lot of ACC and a lot of racing every week, almost every day, I think, as well. So they just know how they work, and not like some of us, they'll stick to one car and they'll learn how everything works, all the noises, the tire squeals, what it means, how it feels, and yeah, it's they're just on another level. When I got here last week to do a little bit of practice, the steering felt very heavy, but I just remembered that's how Watkins Glen is. That's how setups are. The steering just feels super heavy compared to some of the other racetracks on the game, on the calendar. So it's a different feeling when you don't touch the sim for a while and then you jump back into it and you got to try and relearn it. And sometimes muscle memory kicks back in, but sometimes you just got to get your head down and get your hours back in.
Very well said. I mean, this racetrack itself, you kind of hit the nail on the head. All these corners are banked. They're cambered. So you're loaded up on the springs, and the weight, you can feel it in every single corner. That's different from a flat track where you don't have that at all. These cameras, again, deceptive. It doesn't look like there's much elevation change, and even when there is, it's kind of like the sticker on your mirrors of your car at home. It says objects and mirrors are closer than they appear. The hills are steeper than they appear on the camera. This doesn't look like much of a rise, but it is. It's several stories rising from the bottom of turn number 1 to this point up here at the bus stop. It's huge, and you go back down. This is what I call the carousel, because I'm an old man, called the outer loop. But to me, it's the carousel, and it always will be. And you start running down the hill. And again, several stories downhill. Your braking points are never where you left them here, because if you try to brake at the same meter board as you do for, let's say, the bus stop where you've plateaued versus getting into tow, which is where we're going through right now, you're not going to happen. You've got to brake earlier for tow because you're still going downhill. But you can't brake too much because it starts going back uphill halfway through tow, so you can use some of that momentum to slow the car down. It's a very tricky racetrack. It's a very interesting racetrack. That's part of the comparison to Donington, is because it has that original character. Who hasn't lost it going through Old Hairpin at Donington? Going through sort of shoot and tow is very similar to here, and that's kind of what that comparison is about. I figure if you like Donnie, you like Watkins Glen. If you don't like one of those tracks, you probably don't like either of them. A lot of happy race car drivers out there today making good progress. Some not so much. I will say this. Been real quiet in the stewarding booth for a good long while now, and that's not a bad thing. That's a really good thing. We have not had a penalty report, Ted, in an hour. Literally 60 minutes of quiet, no comms from the stewarding department, and that's the way they like it. That's the way we like it. That means everybody's minding their own out there, or at least not getting in too much trouble.
Well, I'm not gonna jinx it any more than you've already mentioned, so I'm just gonna leave it right there because I'd like to have a nice, easy 2 hours. Unfortunately, these guys race, as we see here, the number 6 on 138. Try and get the slipstream, trying to make a move, but they lost the momentum of the hill. The Aston Martin kept to the inside, and the Lamborghini couldn't go there, so they won't be able to make a move into the bus stop. They're gonna have to let off, and they do. But you see, they're different lines. Sorry, Jesse.
Yeah, no, it is. Sorry, I was just going to say, Dauber reckons that the reason that BS Plus competition is, he's going to get loose here, is the 138 Makovkin in CRT Pro just gets loose in the carousel, dog walks it out to the outside of the racetrack. Thank you very much, says Poznikov in the number 6, drives around them, and that's as easy as a passage as you're ever going to have on a racing circuit ever. What I was going to say was Dauber reckons that BS Plus competition doesn't have anything for the Aston based on the Aston straight line ability, and that's why he's just following. He's content perhaps to follow, knowing that he can't really lunge for it because Steward will not appreciate an overtake with contact. Mike Redford, being the contrarian, says, love Donington, hate Watkins, Glen. Dear, oh dear.
But they're the same track. They've got elevation. They've got a tricky pit entry.
Yeah, they're in the same country. I mean,
wait, what?
I mean, they were at some point. I mean, it was the same country at one point, right?
True.
There was a war in between somewhere.
Yeah,
but,
something to do with tea or something.
Something, 1776, something. Either way, I digress. The 45, Stubenausch into the pit lane, and that's an early pitter. I think they've been doing that all race. I was going to mention earlier, Ted, you talked about pit strategy and some pitting quite early indeed. I was flummoxed by the strategy. There were a lot of cars that came in only 50 minutes into this race, and I've been trying to figure out this entire race why they were doing that. Were they attempting to run the entire race backwards? Were they playing the race 6 hours ahead of now to get that final hour and not have to do a reset at some point? I don't know. Time will only tell. Whatever's going on with, I think it's the 72? No, it's the 45. Whatever's going on with the 45, this is an incredibly long stop. Might they have gotten to a wall out there somewhere and we didn't notice?
Possibly, Jesse. It might have been affecting. If you banged either corner of the car, either the two fronts or the two rears, you can mess up the airflow to the tire, or you can make it obviously worse. So you're gaining more air in there. It makes the tire cooler. You could have rubbed the tire against the wall, so it's got a little deflation in it.
That happened. You can. I didn't know you could do that.
I did
in ACC. You can do that. That's frightening.
Yeah, I think I did that in one of my in my stint, and obviously
I knew curbs could do it, but I didn't know the wall could do it.
Yeah, obviously curbs can do it if your tires are too low in pressure, and obviously the game likes to remind you, do not hit any curbs. Your pressures are low, and you can hit a curb, especially ones with a good bump in it. Say the chicane, the bus stop, for instance, and you can just pop a tire if they're too low. And it goes for walls. If you brush the wall, like coming out of the final corner, you go wide and you just brush the wall, just a brush. There's not really any damage on the car. It's not affecting the steering. You can still start having a little bit of deflation in that tire. And when you're double stinted tires, that's not what you want, because your tires are going to get cooler due to the temperature. They're going to drop in pressure anyway. You'd probably expect somewhere between 0.3 to 0.4 psi drop in pressure, and I think I had a 0.7 drop in pressure on my rear left, which is the tyre that would normally, especially in the Mustang for us, slide out here because they're getting, as you see there, the Lamborghini got a little bit wiggly in the dirty air, and just pushed the rear left, and yeah, it wasn't great. So I was very careful every time I came out of the final corner. But just these little things is nicely detailed in this game. It's a bit more realism adds to it. Obviously, you see in real life racing.
He's thinking about doing it. Will he run out of steam, though? Will he see Rotors looking up the inside, looking out the outside, following back in line for Abeladze? Abeladze takes the normal line, doesn't think that Rotors is going to have a look. He does. A little peek, a sneaky whiff, and gets back in line for the bus stop chicane. Nothing doing there. Abeladze able to just leg out the BS Plus competition Lamborghini, and they stay line astern for the time being. Folks in chat reckon that I'm going to commentators curse somebody any moment now, saying that it's been very quiet in the Steward's box. Guys, you name me one time that I have ever commentators Wait, what's that? What's that? There's
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Warning for car 51 for avoidable contact on lap 128, just handed to me by Grim Lilith. Also, 5-second time penalty for car 45 for a pit lane entry violation. The first of the day, I'm pretty sure. 4 wheels over the solid yellow line. That'll lap 131 on their pit entry. Oh dear. Looks like I'm at it again. Dauber also reckons that the national version of Donington is better than the other version. That's interesting. I think I like both for different reasons.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
Both have the chicane. Still Watkins.
There you go. Okay. I'll take your word for it. Except it's not called a chicane at Donington. It's called the
Is
S's.
it not?
It's called the S's. I don't know why. It's definitely a chicane, but that's rather. It's neither here nor there for them. They call it that, right? It is what it is. Oh my goodness. Let's see. By the way, I will remind Mike Redford, there's nothing controversial about a bunch of people from Massachusetts getting together and having a tea party.
Well, P5, who just pitted in, dropping back a few places, number 32 car, David Patel, is in the pit lane to do their either tyre change or driver swap fuel or whatever. Their strategy is. You got car 20s in as well. So some people coming through, but like you were saying earlier, people pitting 50 minutes into their stint is not, for me, doesn't seem normal. We normally push the stint timer as far as we can go, and you don't really cut it short, which is weird, but yes, it is interesting to see what these drivers are doing, and I've only just got your T reference, Jesse.
Oh my goodness. Folks in chat, I'm glad you're having fun. I'm having fun. We're all having fun. This is banter. We're going back and forth. It's fun. Hope that you're enjoying tonight's dinner theater, wherever you are in the world, getting around time in continental Europe for sure. And we're just happy to have all of you with us today. We hope that you are enjoying today's broadcast. And I thought that was going to be closer. That looked closer on the camera than it actually was. And that's the scary part about this place is it's like being in a fun house where there's like mirrors and like weird shapes and everything's sort of warped. It's hard to tell sometimes with the distances. Also, I'm pretty blind. I need to go in for an eye checkup, I think, as well. So there's that on top of all of it. Louis Rotors still yet to make a move on Abeladze. Abeladze goes wide this time, exiting the carousel. Might he have a shot down into the chute? The answer is absolutely not. Covered very well by Abeladze. Unable to make the move still as Rotors. I think part of it is that the Aston has the legs. I think the other part of it is Louis realizes he's got to make this pass cleanly, concisely, and definitively. And if he's even a little bit unsure Louis, that is, he's not going to do it. He's not going to risk it. There's a lot riding on this for them. This effectively could be the race win.
You know, I told you to keep an eye on the P3, and we didn't be keeping an eye on
You
P3.
did.
You see how far away they are now from their 17 seconds that they were about 20 minutes ago.
They were 17 seconds, 16 seconds, 15. I clocked them at 13. I lost track of them because we were watching the top two fight each other.
Oh, Lamborghini's in.
There we go. Louis Rotors into the pit lane to take their penultimate stop of the day as BS Plus competition. And that will promote Bastian Richter up into second place for Rinwelden. That's 71 now, within 2 seconds of the leader at the line. They're within 1.5 seconds of the leader at the line, as that car has consistently been the quickest car in the entire field ever since the sun has started to set a little bit and the track temperatures have continued to cool. The height of the day, 30 degrees C track temp. It's now 19 degrees. That is a dramatic departure for temperature. Some cars will perform better. Some drivers will perform better in cooler temperatures.
I will say, just looking at the last lap times, the 255 was doing 145s, same as the 89 that was following them. Oh, nice save by the BMW there. Whereas Reicher, the 71, was doing 143.8. So the other two cars in the mid to low 45s, whereas the 71 was in the high 43s and been doing that consistently. So that's how they've caught up so hard. And now they're right behind the leader, and it looks like they're gonna make a move for it, Jesse. They're not gonna hang around like the Lamborghini did. They're both in equal cars. It's down to the setup and the driver now, and let's have to see if the 71's got more grip on those tires compared to the 255.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when they come in, and the answer is right now. Coming in is Abeladze, not for Bastian Richter, as they will continue on their strategy. But the leader of the race, the team that has led the majority of this race, hasn't led the whole way, but has led the majority into the pit lane for their penultimate stop. So that's their strategy made, and they will have to lie in that bed. What does Bastian Richter and what does Rinwelden have in store? Jade Hutchinson will bring the effectively fourth place car into the pit lane to the attention of their team, the STR Esports Ford Mustang. Will Naldi come in the 27? We'll see. They look like they're coming in, and they are. They're not quite at the line, but you have to trust me. They're coming through to the commentary box, and there they are into the pit lane as Jacob Osterman, very nearly on cold tires, loses it, rejoining the old racetrack there from the boot. And that is one of the struggles. We've seen a couple of cars do that today, where they've come out on cold tires and smacked the wall coming onto the pit straight, and also losing it up into the bus stop as well. Here is Philip Minar reinstalled into the 255 Aston, and we'll see what kind of progress they can make. But the 89's through. The 89 is through. Jacob Osterman effectively should be in the lead of this race, Ted.
That's pretty crazy, Jesse. It's an hour and 53 left for this race, and I just can't wait till the end. Not because I want to run away from doing some commentary, but I just want to see how it's going to hot up towards the end, see what fights are going to be. Obviously, we're seeing the fights now, but is this all strategy, Jesse? Is the 89 going to drop back? Here we see the 71 coming in to do their pit stop as well. But yeah, it's one of those questions of, and one of those things is where if you're these drivers, you don't look at what's happening now, you just do what you can. And when it comes towards the last hour and the last pit stops, you're like, right, what are the other teams doing? And where are they going to come out? Where do we need to push? Do we need to try and save these tires? Do we need to try and destroy these tires to get some time out there? It's all these questions when you get towards that last hour or the last pit stop, and you're keeping an eye on everyone. Whereas probably now you're probably just trying to keep your speed. You're trying to keep your lap times. You are sort of keeping an eye on the guy behind, the person you're probably going to fight at the end. but there's a lot of questions, but some that can't be answered right now. There's a 71. The 71 has got moving out of their pit box, so they'll join probably behind the 255. No, they're actually in front of the 255, Jesse.
That must have been a long stop for the 255. Either they were too cautious getting on or off of pit lane, or their outlap was not nearly as good. Actually, they got beat before that, so it was something coming into the pit lane. Whether that happened in the lane or just before it, eagle-eyed folks in chat have pointed out, actually Redford's the one that pointed out, that the leading Aston, the 255 at the time, had continued to go wide. I documented that earlier, and so did Les and Matt earlier on in the day. Mike Redford reckons in all of those going wide, those offs, if you will, must have been at least one warning from it. I have them at about 2 to 3 right now in that 255, because I've consistently saw them do that earlier on as well. But we'll see. Looks certainly can be deceiving. Sometimes you get the no time gain. Sometimes you get the, yep, that was absolutely an advantage, even when it wasn't. It's at ACC's discretion, rather unfortunately. Looks like the top 3 cars, Ted, took tires.
Yeah, so that's not including the 776. They still need to do a pit stop. They pitted on lap 109. Whereas if we look at the second, third, and fourth, second did 106.4, third place did a 106.2, and then the 255 wasn't a slow pit stop. It was a 107.6, which isn't. It is slow. It's 1.5 seconds slower than P3, but it's not slow enough to lose 2 positions or even another position from where they were. So yeah, very, very interesting. Oh, too wide into the bus stop. That was a little bit sketchy. Both made it through without any contact. Very well done from both those Mustangs there. But yeah, so I'm not sure what happened to Mina's car, but we'll just have to see if they've taken new tyres. Kevin has just said that they've all 3 taken tyres. So we just have to see what their lap times are now compared to what they were before. Obviously, we know the 89 was very quick, and the 71 with the fastest lap. No, the 73 is taking it, but the 71 did have the fastest lap. Should I say? It's all up in the air now, Jesse. Everyone's taking their tyres and making us all screw up our words.
Well, Hladky is in the lead of the race, the 776, but they have a pit stop to give, at least by my math. So that will mean Jacob Osterman in the 89 for BS Plus competition will be the de facto leader in front of Tobias Grunwald and the 71 of Rin Welton. Philip Minar has it all to do after their team has led the majority of this race for 255 competition. That Aston will find themselves most likely in 3rd place with about 3 to 4 seconds of gap to make back up. Tobias Grunwald's going to try and get up there and continue the good work that their whole team has done today and give BS Plus competition a run for their money. They certainly seemed like the quickest car, though I will say Burnt in the number 73 Ferrari at the beginning of their stint just now has just ran the quickest lap of the race, and they're going to continue to swap this, Ted, because as daylight fades, the track cools, gets faster, but for right now, there is still a Rin Welton car that's fastest, but it ain't the 71, it's the 73.
Yeah, sure is. Just looking at what time they did, it was a 143.367, and the 71 did a 43.472. So a couple of tenths quicker. Just looking at some of the lap times though, the 255 only doing a 144.1, whereas the 2 cars in front were doing 43.6s. So you have to keep an eye on the 255 Aston Martin to see if they can actually get some pace back, or if they're going to start just dropping back. But
well, talking about Assassin's Creed in the chat, if you have a favorite Assassin's Creed, put it in the chat. Hey, you know who streams Assassin's Creed? Our broadcaster Kevin Boss. You can find him over at Twitch at Crashneck, all one word, Crashneck, common spelling. over on Twitch. For right now, we're going to go ahead and go to a little bit of a break. We'll be back right with you in just a few moments. Turn your sound up. Enjoy the sights and the sounds of the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. Welcome back to continuing coverage of RCI's 6 hours of Watkins Glen. Round number 3 of the 6-hour Esports Championship, and we've got a fantastic final hour and a half ready for you here. The sun's setting here in northern New York State, upstate New York as they call it locally, and we have a race for the lead, but it's not involving the 255, who is playing catch-up just a little bit. Most recent pit stop was not on the mark for the 255 Aston, and that has led Jacob Osterman in the BS Plus competition car into the lead of the race, but the fastest car on the racetrack is the green one. Tobias Grunwald in the Renwelton number 71, Ted. He's right there. He has erased the humongous 17-second gap, and he's looking for the lead.
Yeah, he's have to see what he does with this. Obviously, in the slipstream is not too bad. Down these little straights, you keep the time in there. If you make a little mistake, getting closer towards the end of the toe, so got some more. Got better grip through the corners than the Lamborghini. Like I say, I've not really seen the Lamborghini being driven in either of our weekday champs or in the community series, so I can't really say how this car handles or how it looks like it performs, but it's doing a superb job at the minute. But obviously the Aston Martin showing that is probably a bit more superior in how it takes corners and has the speed on the straights, but down to 2/10 now, coming up to the line. It will update again for us in just a second. And it's still 2/10, a quarter of a second thereabouts. So I wonder what their plan is here. Is it just to sit behind the 89 and see if they can get away from that third place, the 255 competition car, or will they try and go for a move if they get a little bit bored, Jesse? Because sometimes, well, they're out of the slipstream there. Looked like the Lamborghini went for a defensive move, still caught them going into the bus stop. That's how much speed that Aston Martin had coming through the S's onto that straight. But I wonder, because sometimes I get a little bit bored following people and I just want to get past them. I wonder if that happens with these esports guys, Jesse. I know they're a lot more patient. You know, they've been doing this a long time, they know what to do and what not to do, but do you think they ever get a little bit annoyed that they are just stuck there? They just want to make a move to see if they can stay out in front?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think everybody ultimately is human, and you want to do certain things that you can't do in this situation, like just dive in there, especially if you know you're quicker. It's agony to be following another race car, knowing that you're quicker, but you can't really make the pass because you don't have quite enough, or maybe they're beating you on a straight where you just need to stay as close as possible and you can't quite make that happen. So all these things sort of factor in. If you're Jacob Osterman here, your team's in the lead, you're in charge of the car. Don't put yourself in a bad situation. Don't really worry about Tobias Grunwald, because it is the flip, it's the reverse of what it was in the previous segment. We talked a lot about the 89 having to get by the 255 and having to do it in a safe and concise manner. In the end, they didn't do that on the racetrack. They did it in the pit lane. What does that tell me? What does that tell us? That was the plan all along. We can get it done in the pit stop. And they did. Now it's sort of the opposite. The 71, who has been driving in clean air, is now right behind the leader of the race. They have to get it done. And defensive driving by Osterman. Osterman to the inside. Around the outside here is Grunwald. Grunwald ahead at the center, or with the end of the timing sector, but it won't matter. Was on the wrong side of the racetrack there, and through the carousel, it's Osterman with a decent lead. That should give them both a little bit of a breather, but a serious attack, perhaps the first serious assault, led by Tobias Grunwald there. Osterman holds.
Yeah, sure it does. And I'm just looking at the last lap times while we were away, and 1:43.9s for the top two drivers, and in third place was 1:40 dead, followed by fourth place 38 with a 1:43.9, and it's 1:44s going down the field, and some 43s as well. So everyone's in roughly the same pace at the moment, so maybe all on either new tyres or older tyres, but it looks like for me, these are brand new tyres, as Kevin said earlier, for the top three. So people are sort of on pace with each other right now, as we would expect in this sort of field of drivers, being precise with the corners and all that. So it's going to be very interesting to see who can catch to the top two, the 89 and 71. Can the 255 get it? Can the 38, maybe the 32 can sneak up there if they can get some good lap times in, or if these two drivers keep fighting. But they've been very sensible, Jesse. 71 tried to go for a move. Gave each other enough room, and the 71 couldn't make it. Keep going too wide through the bus stop, so they backed off and just slotted in. So they know what they're doing. The 255 is creeping back though, so like I say, more fighting, more cars involved, and gonna get interesting.
Well, that's what you expect at this end of the field. You expect a little bit of consideration, and you expect them to sort of calmer heads to prevail. And certainly the more repetition you have being in these high pressure situations, the better you are at making judgment calls, and obviously the better you are as a racing driver, and you would expect that to come out. And a little bit of discretion goes a long way, and you're certainly seeing that here in these fights. And this is what you want to see. You want to see good racing, you want to see clean racing, hard racing, but also a little give and take. And that can go a long way as well. And you see a little bit of that right there. It wasn't on. Get back in line and keep it going. Let's see if we can catch another angle of this wiggle. Actually, you know what? This is before that. Finn Zimble. Finn Zimble trying to rejoin after a spin. There's contact with another car, and that leads to an additional spin. So no wonder that car was wiggling. The tires are completely trashed on that number 6. That explains a lot. And here to explain some more things is Grim Lilith, who has handed me some more slips of paper. No further action for a report involving the 71 in the pits. Reported for pit lane exit violation. Car was on the line, but did not cross it. The lineman says it was in and onside. 5-second penalty for car 138, forcing a car off track back on lap 144. That was versus car number 20. So 5-second penalty for the 138. Thank you to our entire group of live stewards. It takes an entire army to pull off an event of this magnitude. So I thank every single one of them, including RCI's sexiest race controller, Grim Lilith. Apparently, we voted on that at some point today.
I cannot remember that. There's a lot of things that get spoke about.
I mean, I think it, but I just don't say it. He's a married man. It's not polite of me to say.
You've got to keep it to yourself sometimes, but well, here's the car 20, Madcap Racing, going against the 55, Luke Whitehead in front, the Aston Martins. Only a tenth or so behind. Not really seen the Ferrari and its legs these days. Obviously, with the BOP has changed. Like it used to be a really good car through the corners, but not very good off the line on a race start. Too wide into the boot. Getting a bit of a drift there from the Ferrari. Slots back in behind the Aston Martin. Will they go for another move? No, they won't. Yeah, Ferrari. I like to see the Ferraris back again. They did go away when the Aston Martins and obviously when the Mustang came out. Triple One's just gone for a spin in the carousel as well. As you can see on the right hand side on the track map, they are a white dot. But yeah, the Mustang and the Aston Martin sort of ruined racing for the Ferrari for a little bit. And they are slidey. Going it's like through the boot. Oh, that's why you don't take curb there, Jesse. It's got a massive dip in it, and doesn't look too bad. Yes, they hit the wall, but it depends how much damage it's given them. I think that's the slide, making the tyres a bit slippy.
Well, it's the second incident in 3 laps for that car, and that car is now in a very desperate state. They're going to need to repair that.
Yes.
I don't know if there's suspension damage or that's just the tires being superheated, but one way or another, that car in a desperate way. I don't think they came down pit lane this time. They're trying to soldier on, maybe assess the car just a little bit more. Nikon in chat says that new tires on the Lambo for sure, question mark. Jacob is so good that he can do this without traction control. Yeah, the problem is we are none the wiser. We make judgment calls here in the booth, Ted and I, based on what we see, the same as anyone else. We don't have any specific insider information, just stuff that we follow and write down. So it's very possible that that is the case, but the strategy, the good part is, will be revealed in about an hour's time from now. We will sort of understand a bit better of what everyone is doing here. Defensive line, though, from Osterman goes back to the racing line, realizing that Grunwald wouldn't get there in time. Tobias falls back in line, gives a little bit of space, and there they go. Line astern, single file through the bus stop again. A couple of looks, a couple of moves. Tobias building his notebook on what he can and cannot get away with, racing Jacob Osterman for the lead of this race and potentially the win of this race as well. Mentioned earlier, our own Kevin Boss brought this up. If BS Plus Competition wins this race, they will be the only car in RCI history, esports history anyway, to come from outside the top 10 and win. This is our second season of esports racing. Nobody's done it. They would be the first, and I'll go a step further. They will be the only car in RCI history to receive a grid spot penalty and win a race. And that's not in esports history. That's full stop in RCI history. In the 5-year history of RCI, no one's ever received a grid spot penalty and won a race.
That'll be some achievement, Jesse. As we see here, the 55 trying to come back on the 20. They can't get past the 44 in front. But yeah, some achievement if they can take home the win. Obviously, it's going to come down, as you say, to the last hour or so of the race. Once everyone's done pit stops, and we can sort of try and work out what could happen. But at the minute, there's just a few little groups battling on. And if you like to try and do some battling in ACC, well, we've got some events coming up and some already happening. Obviously, we've got the IMB 6-hour community series. If you don't feel like wanting to do the esports thing, don't think you're as fast as these pros here, we have that. It is a week before 6-hour race. That is on our website. We have Porsche Cup Season 5 on Mondays. 2 rounds already in. We've done Paul Ricard and Hungaroring, and we're on to Barcelona with 4 rounds to go. Is some fun. Me and Kevin are racing in that, and tricky, but it's got some good racing there. Have a bit of fun with. Next weekend we have Donaldson one-off 10-hour race multi-class. Grab some friends, come along and join us for that one. Last one-off for the year. We will be doing a lot more next year in between other stuff that is yet to be planned, but don't worry, we always got racing here at RCI. And then it's night now. Winter Break 3 comes back for a 3-round champ in 2 weeks' time. Nothing crazy as we normally see in the Night Owl series. Just a normal pit stop, 1 litre of fuel with a 57-minute pit window, as you see here. Ferraris fighting each other. And just GT3 cars, normal GT3 cars, all the ones up to date as you see here in this race today, with a BOP applied. So come along for that, and obviously we have the MX5 Cup for iRacing. If you're an iRacing person rather than ACC, then we do have 3 more rounds left on our champ. And I did hear Tom Bryant wants to do some more next year as well. We're going to be pumping out iRacing content on a Wednesday. So be sure to keep an eye on that. Everything I've just mentioned is at racerci.com, or you can head into the description below and go to our Discord as well. I'm seeing here, looking at these cars here. See, number 6 behind. Zimbal's got a 10-second penalty, Jesse. Do you know anything about this?
Well, let's take a look and see if we have something in the stewarding box, and we do. Slip of paper from Grim Lilith back on lap 149 in turn 8. 10-second penalty for car 6, avoidable contact with the 111, and that has got themselves a 10-second penalty. That is the first 10-second penalty in about 2 hours that we've had. Close racing here, though, as Luke Whitehead continues to try and get by some of this traffic and has now cracked the top 20 and top 19. Zurban now back to 20th, and the 44 Lamborghini has gone around. Did it make contact with the wall, or were they able to save it? I don't know, but Visceral Esports' number 44 has gone around much the same many other cars have done today. They get it back together convincingly, so it's possible they kept it off the wall. I don't see any obvious... the back does look a bit crunched. The failing light is making it slightly more difficult to see the scratches and the damage on the car. This race, of course, will end in darkness and very cool temperatures indeed. And a lot of that, Ted, you have to keep up with the tire pressure. If you're changing tires, it's like trying to hit a moving target with your PSIs.
Yeah, it is very difficult. As soon as you start getting into so a little fight with someone, you're trying to defend, your tire pressures go low. And once they go low, then you start making more mistakes, start sliding, and go through the bus stop. It changes. It feels like you're doing the same things. You're braking at the right points. You're turning in. You're using the throttle correctly. Probably dabbing a little bit of brake if you're going a bit too fast through it. But if you got those lower PSIs, you're not getting the grip that you are used to, and then it just unsettles the car that you've never felt before, and yeah, it just easily makes it hard for you to think of what the car's doing and get them back up again. You either let the car go or stop fighting with the car in front, which is obviously still difficult if you're faster. And trying to fight the PSI is just a different race in itself. Like there's so many things these guys are thinking about when they're driving. Hitting the apexes, getting the braking points, keeping an eye on tire pressures, watching out for people in front or behind if they're back markers or if they're the faster car behind. Incidents, all sorts of things. Lighting, as you say, Jesse, is going to get ended darkness. You've got to change your perspective on where brake markers are, but yeah, very difficult.
Yeah, it is. Folks, we're going to go to a flyby track cam for the moment as we restart something in the background. No worries, we'll be back to live pictures from Watkins, Glen. In the meantime, a little RCI radio for you on your Saturday evening. And no, Ted, to your point, you're absolutely right. The failing light's also going to be huge because talked earlier at length about the different elevation, the undulation of the racetrack, the cambered, the the bad camber of some corners as well, the curbs, all of that becomes harder to judge. Distance in the dark in general for a human being becomes harder to judge without adequate lighting as well. You add the fact that you're going downhill for some corners, you're going uphill, the braking markers may not reflect properly in the dark. You may hit a curb too hard, you may be too far to the left, to the right. Not to mention some of the tight confines of the walls getting into the bus stop chicane. There's a gigantic 3-tiered Armco right next to that huge curb when you enter the bus stop as well. We've seen people hit that and ricochet off into other cars. You hope that wouldn't be the case, but it certainly could be. The walls here unforgiving. The distances are harder to judge. It's just a completely different animal racing here in the dark. And it's something that happens at Watkins Glen in real life quite often with a lot of races. They race into the evening, and no different here today. And if you've been in the car all day, maybe you're a little bit more comfortable, but getting into it, if your last stint was at sunset and you're getting into it in complete darkness to end this race, arguably the most important part of the race, the end of the race, it may take you a little bit to acclimate yourself, acclimatize to the situation in the darkness. back to live pictures here. 1 hour 16, go ahead and call it 1 hour 17 minutes left to go. Didn't miss a thing. Osterman still leads Grunwald. Minar continuing to climb back in this. It was nearly a 5-second gap after the pit stop. It's down to 3.3 seconds. The reason that Minar isn't gaining as much as they previously were is because they're not fighting as Osterman and Grunwald. Really, they haven't really fought each other. They're making good pace, not quite as good as the 255 competition Aston, but still pretty good pace. And because they've not been stranded side by side, because they've not been battling that hard, Philip Minar has made significant but not exceptional gain to this point.
Yeah, Minar is on the same pace. They're looking here. They're all doing 144s there or hereabouts. So it's not, like I say, it's these tires. They're not even an hour old. We'll have to see if they double stint these tires as well, Jesse. That's another thing. Will one car have another set of tires extra? Will another car just have this one set left? Do they have to push it all the way? Not too sure. Ooh, this is
this could get ugly. Oh, man.
Looking not to hit that bump in that corner there as we see the Aston Martin trying to dive on the Lamborghini. Will they make it through cleanly? Oh, the Lamborghini goes wide. Aston Martin stays on the inside.
Lamborghini gave space there.
Going to go for it again, Jesse. Oh, the Aston Martin made it in front. Got the better exit out of the toe, going into the hill. Ferrari.
Let's see. Let's take a replay and see if we can see what happened prior to that. Maybe we'll have that. Maybe we won't have that. But Prina does stay in front of Zimbel. Zimbel had a good long look, and I thought that Zimbel might not realize there's a car there, but goes wide and ends up somehow benefiting from that as well. Meanwhile, the fight up at the front, Osterman and Grunwald continuing their battle amongst themselves. I call this a battle, but the more that we go about this, I feel like Tobias Grunwald is following Osterman, realizing that if he follows the 89 for BS Plus competition, they're not going to get away from Grunwald, and that's all they really have to do. You can't win the race with an hour to go, but you can sure lose it.
Yeah, you sure can. If you try and make a move on car in front and it goes wrong, then that's could be penalties, probably your race over. As you say, we've seen many times going into the bus stop, someone's been on the inside and got turned and found those orange barriers, and they don't move here in ACC. And I've seen many people be pushed into those, trying to go too wide, and the inside cars either got understeer and just pushed the other car out. But yeah, he's just sitting there. He
could have pushed the issue there. Like Ted and I both erupted because we felt it. That would have been a disturbance in the force moment for either one of us, Ted or me. We would have went for it there, wouldn't we, have Ted? But no, he's following. He's not putting his car. Kevin Boss also agrees. We're 3 for 3 in the booth, and folks, we never go 3 for 3 in the booth. No contrarian here to be found. We would have all went for that move with dead to rights, didn't. And I think the reason why is it is no advantage to be leading this race right now. Could also be saving a little bit of fuel. What does that mean? Maybe a little bit quicker if you're not taking tires on this last stop. Ted, you touched on that. Maybe some are not. If you're not taking tires, think about your fuel, because each liter or so adds a second or so to your pit stop. You save a few liters, 5 or so. That's a couple of seconds less on pit lane, and you don't have to be in the lead. You're right behind him. Stomps, as the U's would say these days.
Yeah, if you just sit behind the car in front, you're going slower, you're saving fuel. You're looking after your tyres better. Yeah, they're going to decrease in pressure, but you just take it easy. You don't have to go silly through the bus stop because you're not trying to catch the person in front because you're there already. You don't have to. Like, these guys are hitting the curves quite hard. You can see the sparks coming off the cars, and the cars be a bit jumpy. Not too much. Not making the car unstable, but they're just cutting it enough where they can stay with the cars in front. These guys want to fight. These guys are in the top 20. they're fighting. The two cars behind are 21st, 22nd, and they want to be top 20. That's the whole thing. There's two cars here that have got 10-second penalties, so
Yeah, our broadcaster Kevin Boss is absolutely frustrated with Ren Welton's Tobias Grunwald,
Ooh, we've got a
who just
crash.
refuses to make a move on Osterman, has had a couple of opportunities and hasn't done. I'm willing to believe that this 71 is saving some fuel, as I believe that's the 44
It is, yes.
off
And that-
of the pace there, and that car is crunched. That is, something is loose in the back end of that car, because that thing is wiggling around, and that's not how that Lamborghini came from the factory.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but they were going into the toe and they just yellow flagged and they were dead stopped. I don't know if it was on the inside, or as we see they were. They could have cut across the track to get out of the way, or that's where it put them after the crash. But yeah, that doesn't look healthy whatsoever. But still, there's still some battles going on, but these guys are sort of relaxing. They're doing the same thing as the top two, just following each other, not really making any moves. We've seen them like this for the past half an hour, I think, in this order.
Another
So,
penalty report coming through. This one from all the way back on lap 127. 10-second penalty given to car 51 for avoidable contact in an incident with car 24. So that was a while ago, but I think I recall that. That's a 10-second penalty. That would likely mean that there was significant contact between the two of them. Otherwise, it would likely have been a 5. So that tells you pretty much everything you want to know, to the anguish of Kevin Boss. No move made there. It's about preservation at this point, isn't it? If you're saving fuel or not, that's kind of not the point. You're preserving the fight. You're preserving your team's opportunity to make this. And if Philip Minar was catching at any particular rate, maybe Grunwald wouldn't be so, chill with this, so laissez-faire with his approach to what's going on. And
no.
Michael Herman Fry,
It's a 111 again.
Michael Herman Fry has made contact with the impenetrable barriers on the outside of the bus stop chicane. Now, how does one get themselves in that situation in the first place? Because he was in the middle of them.
I will tell you now, it's self-inflicted. Oh,
So no other car involved.
no,
Ted, tell us about it.
So from what I can see, he missed his braking at the 300 board or thereabouts. Tried to go, because you could snake through those orange barriers, got through the first two and just slid into the last one head on. Quite quickly as well. It was, I will tell you now how fast he was going as we heading up to it. 86 kilometers an hour, which is still pretty quick. And yeah, came to a dead stop. And that's when we found them. So very unfortunate there. And gee, that's what happens if you just lose that little bit of concentration of what you're doing. It can really end up in it with some serious damage. Oh, the Ferrari getting a little bit of a front snap there, but two more cars in the background. Not sure if they are. I don't think they're to fight this terrain or not. Apparently the Ferrari behind is to fight, so it's just a little train going on in chess.
Yeah, you got a bunch of cars here fighting. You got Prina Zimbel, Adamu, all of these cars fighting each other for these top 20 positions, points-paying positions. How important could they be down the stretch? Potentially, you never can really tell, but they're not really thinking about that so much late in the race. This is the fight that you're in, and you want to be the car leading this group. To put this a bit more simply, the Gladys car, the 202 Aston in front, the dark-colored car, that's a big juicy steak if you're Zimbel and Adamu. You want to catch that car, you want to beat that car, because that's the one you're in the fight with. The car at the caboose of this train is, of course, on a different lap, so they are not actually involved in this fight, though they are trailing it quite close indeed. They might even be a lap ahead of this group. I can't quite tell, or maybe they're a lap behind and they have new tires. Either way, not involved in this fight in a meaningful way. but Zimble getting as close as you like to the back of Prina there for Gladys competition. Gladys unfazed. It's going to go a little bit wide here. Zimble's going to go down the inside. The inside will become the outside. Maybe a little bit of flashing saying, hey, I'm here, and you're kind of in my way a little bit. Can we work this out? I am fluent in decoding what the flashing lights mean, and I think that was not necessarily a frustrative flash, more of a, hey, you know I'm here and I'm quicker than you, right? Help me out here a little bit.
Yeah, but the thing is, Prina's probably looking at it go, well, you've got 10 seconds. If you can get away from me in 10 seconds, then I'm losing that position overall. Whereas if I keep you here, then you two behind have got the penalties, and you're just going to drop back further, and you're a buffer zone, as we like to call it, Jesse. Whereas it's going to be, if you've only got one car behind you, it's, you know, you got the little buffer zone. This is quite a big buffer zone. You've got two cars, and it's going to be more difficult for the next Ferrari to, who's 2.2 seconds back from the 51. It's got to try and make its way through two extra cars. So it is a smart plan if you don't have that pace for the car that's in front by, what's that, 6 seconds on the 20. So another flash from the 51 on the Lamborghini this time around. It's just the train of flashing lights. It was a bit like Christmas.
It's about that time of year, and if you are in the Christmas spirit, then of course we have a race for you coming up in 1 month's time. Round 4 of the RCI 6-hour Esports series coming up, I believe, on the 14th of December. There won't be any snow on the racetrack, but there may be some flashing lights on the racetrack and off of the racetrack as well. That's on the 14th of December, round 4 of the championship. Tobias Grunwald right now, though, taking the race into his own hands, had a huge look, goes down to the inside. Grunwald around Osterman. Osterman off of the racetrack in the bus stop, but he recovers quite nicely, but it's too late. Tobias Grunwald is gone into the lead for Renwelton.
I wonder if we saw the 255 Minar coming at 2.8 behind. Only slowly closing that gap, but it's enough to see how close we can see from this camera how close that car is now, that Aston Martin behind. So I wonder if Osterman got maybe got a warning, or maybe he for cutting the second curb in the bus stop, or it could have just got no time gain. Maybe he was going slow enough, he didn't get it, but that was very, very sketchy, because I thought he was going to lose the rear end of that Lamborghini and he would have been backwards and lost all that time. But what happens when you're racing, you've got an hour and 4 left. This is when they start thinking, right, pit stop's coming up soon. What is the plan, guys? Are we, like, most likely gonna full push this? Even if you're double stint in the last set of tyres, which I don't think these guys will. I think these guys will take a fresh set if they have it. I could be completely wrong. You know, everyone might have a different strategy altogether, but I think this is going to be us probably losing our voices at the end of this race, Jesse, with an hour and 3.5 minutes left.
Well, at least I will have a reason not to speak to my family a little bit later tonight at the gathering, so I'll be happy about that. I'll just feign ignorance on that and say I lost my voice. But here comes Francisco Adamu trying to make a move, looks to the inside, takes a sniff, can't do it. Zimble closes off. Zimble now on the attack for Prina. This group has been together for a little while now, but none of them have been able to make a move. Several of them have 10-second penalties already that will offset, so it's very much game on. If you're Prina, you're in a very dangerous spot. You've got cars that have penalties right behind you that want to get by you, and if they get close enough, you'd have to think that whoever is coaching the Gladys team right now would probably say, don't fight Zimble and Adamu too hard. Just kind of let them go. Don't get in trouble here. They're not going to run us 10 seconds out, and we'll be just fine indeed. So the 71 in lead of the championship and back in the lead of the race here tonight, getting it done. Special shout out to CG Wang, who has the quickest lap of the race for the 5-Star Racing Ace team, that Ford Mustang. They set that time, I think, a couple laps into the current stint that they were in, so they took that away from the top running cars. And something else I wanted to talk about, we haven't mentioned them at all today. Third place in the championship is the Veloce Esports 55 car. Louis Fleischer and Luke Whitehead, they have not factored in today's race at all. Speaking of which, they're coming under our commentary position here. They are in the pits. They have not featured at all. They have been nowhere all day, and that is incredibly uncharacteristic, and I have no clue what's gone on with that team and car.
Yeah, very surprising. It could just be this track. Maybe they're not gelling with the car and the track because, you know, some people are really good at a certain track, like Kyalami or Spa, for instance. You know, a track that's probably driven quite a lot. Watkins Glen, I wouldn't say it's driven that much in ACC. It is a fun track. A lot of people like, for instance, me. I know what I'm doing around here. I can just jump into a car and I can do a respectful lap time for what pace I should be doing. But some people will get here and go, I don't really drive this well. Even a pro driver probably doesn't really touch this track a lot. Endurance is probably a bit more in daily racing, like an hour-long race or something like that. But you normally see Donington, Silverstone, tracks like that. Some tracks that are normally have endurances on them. So, you know, not saying Watkins doesn't, but for us anyway, not a track that really pops up that often in something like this. But yeah, just have to see if they can gain any more places from the where they come out. They've got Lewis in 25th place, I mean, in that double five car. So yeah, it's one of them. Have your ups and downs, but you just have to look forward to the next race.
Yeah, I mean, it's so uncharacteristic. They finished second in Kyalami, you'll recall, and fifth at Silverstone last month. So they've not finished outside the top 5, and for them to not even be in the top 20, they might not even be in the top 25, depending on how the strategy goes. Something clearly amiss there here at Watkins Glen, and they'll be looking to right the ship at Monza in 1 month's time. We're about to go 3 wide here. No, they think better of it, but they're still going to enter the bus stop 2 wide. Nope, they sort that out as well. Gone for Drive Just Boys just about hit the brakes there, saying, I do not want any part of what is happening in front of me. Gives up a ton of time in the meantime, but they can make that up. If they caught them once, you can catch them again. Meanwhile, Gerardus here for West Competition Racing. Haven't talked a lot about West Competition. They were our cover car for our broadcast this time around. Car looks fantastic, even in the low light, and they had a very quiet day in the number 1 car, but they will probably like that, hovering right around the top 10.
Yeah, it's this time, Jesse, when we start seeing some people coming for their pit stops. 45 is in, some cars coming out of pit lane on the left-hand side there as well. That is the 45 coming out, followed by, I think, the double 9? 29, double 9, I think, of 4 is in the car, 24th place. So 42 is in as well. Postfeld in 12th place, coming to do their, I'm going to say final stop. I don't think anyone will be doing another stop from now.
If you're doing
onwards.
Another stop from now onwards, something's gone terribly wrong.
Yes.
Is what's happened there. Now you're going to see 2 strategies here, folks, and 2 main strategies anyway. You're going to see people that are going to come in right now around the 1 hour to go mark. They're going to pack the car. Well, they're not going to pack the car, but they're going to put an hour's worth of fuel in it, or however many liters you need to get to the end, in addition to whatever is still in the tank. You may or may not put tires on, depending on what your strategy was coming into the day. Unless you were involved in an incident, which the vast majority luckily have not been, your strategy wouldn't have really changed a whole lot. So whether you're putting on tires or not, you're putting just enough fuel to get to the end and not a liter too many, and you're down and gone. Now, you may see, and the alternative strategy, and the one that we will likely see by a lot of the front runners, is they're going to come in around the 30-minute marker as late as possible. They're going to put very little fuel in the car. They're going to keep the tires that they have on there, and they're going to run to the finish, and they will have quite quick stops indeed, but they will be ailing on those very worn out and sad tires for LEP Zeros at the end of this one. So that's the two strategies you can expect. Don't worry if your favorite team doesn't come in anytime now. That just means that they're going to take a very quick stop later, not take tires because they probably don't have any left, and just put enough fuel in the car. And I'm halfway expecting some of the leaders to come in this time by to confuse me, and one has. The 255, the competition car, has come into the pit lane just under the 1 hour mark. That tells me they probably have a set of tires.
Yeah, I think so, Jesse. It's going to be very interesting. This race is going to start to heat up between the top drivers, and well, not just the top drivers, especially with these drivers here as well. 3 cars within a second of each other. 2 Aston Martins and the Ferrari behind. Ferrari with a 10-second penalty, unfortunately, but that is what happens. You just got to keep going. So have to see what happens. They still got pit stops to do. Yes, they do. The 45, just looking now, they did pit. They did take tyres. 1 minute 6.9. Keep an eye. I will keep an eye on people's pits to see if anyone is double sitting in the last I said 55 minutes or so. 179 is in as well. Delfante.
Close racing, and it's only going to get closer. These races, they sort of accordion. They accordion back and forth, meaning that they expand, but they come back together in the end. Philip Minard has come and gone in pit lane, and I was incorrect. They did not take tires. 55 seconds is not long enough to get from end to end with tires, so that was a fuel-only stop, and they have just elected to come in right now. So that's going to be contrarian, I'll go ahead and tell you, to a lot of the other front runners where they are, and that might be why they've done it. They might have done that specifically because it's different. The problem is they've had to take a full fuel load, which they were already a couple of seconds behind the leaders, and now they're going to be even further back. They better hope that they continue to gain and can offset the quick stops of a couple of the top drivers here at the end. And a lot of the mid-pack coming in now, which is sort of to be expected. Some of these teams will have tires, some will not. Prina's in, Felipe Brecha's in from the mid-pack as well. And of course, you're going to see very different positions for some of these cars based on the volume of 5 and 10-second penalties we had in the last run as well.
Yeah, the 32 is in as well. The 179 took tyres, 1 minute 6 dead is what their time was. The 202's coming out of pit lane now, and they didn't take tyres. They did a 58-second pit stop, so they'll be double in the last there. We'll have to see what the 32 does with their pit stop, and obviously Philippe Brecha. The 73 is in from 9th place. Looks like the 20 is coming in as well. Yes, they are. So 7, 6, 9 and the 32 are leaving. So 7, 6, 9 did take tyres 1 minute 6.5. So it's interesting to see some of the cars are just double stinting, Jesse. So it feels like really slow last week. Didn't get it too wrong. Maybe we'll find out towards the end. It's one of those things which is interesting between the teams is they don't all follow the same pit strat, which you think in an esports environment they're all going after that. You know, they're all going after the prizes. That's the whole thing of this. They love the driving and obviously the prizes. That's the thing they want to do. Get the team out there, show off their liveries, and you think they'll take the best option. But what is the best option, Jesse? What is the best pit strategy? Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen in the race, but if you have a perfect race, you don't have any contact with people, you drive well, yeah, you might get held up a little bit between back markers or fighting with people with position, and that's the 51 finding the wall and some of the advertising boards, and they have, I don't know if they can see out that with the screen, Jesse.
That might not be there for them. Boss, can we go? Yes, read my mind. Absolutely read my mind. That is incredible that I just had to see it. That might have not been there for them, but that was definitely for us. That was lodged under the hood of that car. The Vesta team, they've had an up and down day. They fought back from adversity, and looks like they're going to have to do it one more time in the final 52 minutes. They were looking good. They're back inside the top 15. Now a little bit extra issue there for them. And of course, the 10-second penalty, insult to injury for an earlier incident. Well, a couple of more things from RCI cover model Grim Lilith. Racing incident between cars 89 and the 71 on lap 168. So they did have contact earlier, deemed hard racing. The stewards letting that one go. Generally, that means that nobody won or lost out, so there's no reason to give a penalty there. On lap 160, turn 5, 10-second penalty for car 202, causing avoidable contact, that against car 55. So a 10-second penalty for car 202. The penalties continue to come in. Maybe going dark, but the stewards aren't asleep, and they're certainly not missing any of the action. Jacob Osterman's not missing anything coming into pit. 51 minutes to go. BS Plus competition coming in for their final stop. And I would hazard the guess that they're not taking tires or they don't have tires. This is a fuel-only stop for them as well.
Well, we're looking at the 32, who's in 8th place. Herbert came in and went back out again, a 59.5 pit stop, so they didn't take tyres. If the times are correct with taking tyres and not tyres, taking tyres should take you another 7 or so seconds extra. So just have to wait and see that they are back out again, and it will. Oh, that was
quick.
That was a quick 53.9. That is
they must have had. I don't know if they were in a fuel saving mode, because you can do that in these cars. Of course, you have different fuel modes. I don't know if maybe they were doing that at some point, or they just had that car packed full of fuel. But that was quick. They were not there for very long, and that has stranded the 255 competition car some distance behind. And that might be all she wrote for 255 competition, but we'll wait and see exactly what happens with some of the other cars. But I do favor the strategy of going long here, especially if you don't have tires. Going as long as you possibly can do, having an incredibly quick stop. If you're going to take tires, you probably should have already come in by now.
Yeah, I think so, Jesse. Like, I don't know, it depends. It depends, because we don't. One team out there might have done a crazy pitch strategy that we haven't seen yet. So we just have to wait and see. The 38 from second place is in as well. They did take tyres last time around, so I'm going to say they're going to keep these tyres and take some less fuel than before. Only 50 minutes left, so not a full hour of fuel. As we see the 20 trying to make a move on the outside of the 179.
Ooh, Emmanuel Tajadine nearly getting over there, just trying to arc it into the corner. That looks like he's taking a swipe at Bergold, but that's not what's happening. Tajadine was just trying to arc the car into the corner, and that got very close. Lucas Bergold on the wrong side of the track for Madcap, and oh my goodness, very nearly into the wall that time was one of the Ferraris, and they somehow get away with it. Mentioned that earlier with the low light. Sometimes it's harder to judge how much runoff you have, and of course, if you're racing somebody, trying to maximize those entries and exits, and nearly maximized putting some paint on the wall there, but didn't. Got away with it. Alexander Lay in the number 24 Ford Mustang for BF Racing Esports. Talk about another Ford that's been in the top 10, but has had a somewhat quiet day. That would be BF Racing. And the interesting thing about that, of course, is they're currently, or were, next to Moaning in the 38, who they have raced to great excitement this year in other circuits. Tobias Grunwald brings the leading number 71 Renwelton car down the pit lane to the attention of the team, and this is the man that he's racing, Jacob Osterman for BS Plus competition, who is exiting the boot.
I don't know how close it's going to be, because I think what I saw from the gap of the Delta, it was about a minute when Osterman came into the pit lane. That could be wrong. Obviously, the turns and stuff does make it a bit viewy sometimes, so we'll just wait and see. Coming into the last corner now, 71 still in pit
71's
box.
taking tires.
You think?
I think he's taking tires. I think BS Plus Competition is going to take the lead in
They're
this race.
rolling.
The 71 is rolling, but it's going to be too little, too late. Here comes Jacob Osterman
No.
down into turn. Oh, no, it's going to be close, but not close enough. He rolled it out, and he's going to just stay in the lead of the race. Tobias Grunwald in the 71. Unless I miscounted, that was about a minute pit stop.
55.5 seconds. So
So
no
he didn't take tires.
No.
He didn't take tires. It was very close. So no tires for the 71, no tires for the 89. Does the 89 for BS Plus Competition have anything for the Renwelton 71?
This is going to be close because you see the 255, unfortunately, is quite far back. In fourth place at the moment, but the third place still needs to do a pit stop. The 776, they as before they go in quite long, but yeah, 255 is quite far back. There they are now in front of this Mustang, moaning 1.5 behind. So just have to keep an eye. Both is similar pit stop times, but Mona did pitted on lap 171, whereas Mona did 175. So 4 laps difference on tyres and I guess fuel. But I don't think fuel really matters at this point in time because they're all sort of carrying the same weight now. But yeah, just have to see the Aston versus Ford battle. See which car is better through the corners and on the straights. And I think the Aston corners and Mustang on the streets, Jesse.
Certainly is. If you're wondering why they're not taking tires, they have limited sets. They have 6 hours to race, and I believe they only had 4 sets of dry Pirelli P0 tires. So twice today, they've had to double stint. The simple math and simple logic is you don't want to do that in the heat of the day. You don't want to double stint, that is, because the tires are more likely to wear adversely, and you're more prone to sliding around as well. So you do it when it's cooler in the night stint, as Finn Zimble just sort of gets waved around for Vincenzo Racing, and will take that spot, but he's over the back of the curb, but he saves it. He saves it somehow, does Finn Zimble, and saves his entire team's race with that one move. It wiggled, but it did not spin.
Yeah, close
Michael
indeed.
Molney.
Go ahead, Jesse.
I was just going to say, for STR Esports, they've been all over the top 5 today. As high as the podium, as low down as about 5th place where they are right now. But just a good, solid day for STR Esports. Championship caliber team, certainly to be said. And get a top 5 here today. Be the highest classed Ford. Take that with you. Go to Monza, maybe do a little bit more damage. What do you say, Ted? Going to be a close finish for a lot of positions out there today. Moaning, we ride on board with him in the Freedom Ford. And that's Philip Minar right in front of him. They led the majority of this race. Now, no longer in a podium spot for the time being because Gorka in the 776 has not done their pit stop. They have been a late pitter this entire race, the Williams Esports Academy car. And that might benefit them some, the Williams team, in the long run, if they can make an incredibly quick pit stop later on, as I was saying. So, contrary to what I believed would happen today, or this evening, they came in, the majority of the top runners did come in around the top of the hour, some later than others, of course. They didn't take tires, none of them. I don't think they had a set left. This would have been the normal strategy, the standard strategy of double stinting in the coolest part of the race, which it is, just about 8:30 p.m. And on top of that, just putting enough fuel in the car to get to the end and not running right up to the stint limiter. All you have to do to reset your stint limiter, you don't have to get out of the car. That's why Grunwald, Osterman, they're still in the car. All you have to do to reset it is to break the timing beam on pit lane. You don't even have to stop, apparently, in your box. You can give yourself a drive-through penalty of sorts to reset your 65-minute driver's stint limit.
Oh, another car into pit lane, Jesse. The 51 car down in 27th place is doing their pit stop as well. I think the 776 is still going out there. They pitted on lap 144, so that they'll be in a few laps, I would say. Just to keeping that third place warm for the 255 or maybe the 38, as they are close now, Jesse. This is going to be a fight for third place. Going to be interesting. Looks like the Mustang's got some legs on it. Going only 2/10 faster that lap compared to the 144.8 of Philippe Minard in the 255 competition car. So just have to see which car is better at this track, or just is Minard in the zone? Are they're just chilling out? It's now dark. All they need to focus on is that car in front and the braking zones. And he's having a little look. He's like, nah, not too close, and it backs off.
Going to be a close one for sure. A couple of more penalties coming in via Grim Lilith here. 10-second time penalty for car 45 for avoidable contact back on lap 173 against the 51. I think we saw the end of that, the aftermath almost of that incident live as it happened. And also, well, when it rains, it pours. A 10-second time penalty for car 799. That's the RCI house car, one of the two of them. That Bentley, avoidable contact versus car 51. And that was a few laps ago.
Well, still some battles going on, Jesse. Not everyone's done, as I keep saying, not everyone has done their pit stops. They're all quite all over the place. Looking towards more of the midfield of the pack and down into putting of places and they 166 pit stops, 169. This is laps I'm on about, lap number. So normally we're seeing 170s to mid 170s to 175s is when people are pitting, but 166, 170s is just shows you how it changes your race when you have an incident, you have a penalty, you have a lot of damage that you need to fix. It just really throws your strategy off. Whereas, as we're seeing now at the top end of the field is about 165, 172, 175. That's roughly where you I guess you should be pitting. Especially if you're not taking any tyres.
It's going to be very interesting to see what the Williams Academy team, where they actually end up here. Because if they keep this up, they're going to be on pit lane for... Oh no! A huge incident right there. I don't see... That surely that wasn't the car I thought it was. I actually don't see a car stopped anywhere, unless my eyes are broken that they got going. Was that the 202, I wonder, that got spun? I think it was Prina.
They've got a lot of damage. They've got, I think they've got a black and orange flag. We like to call the meatball flag.
Because it looks like a meatball.
Yes, they've got no lights on at the moment, Jesse. Not too sure if that's we've got a bug when you have a connection issue and you disappear. It looks like they did disappear slightly. But they do turn on after a few laps.
But I don't know what happened before that.
They are not coming into pit lane, so they look on my side. They're being shown black and yellow. But
well, the 776 Williams Academy is in, pitting out of the top 5, and they will fall down the field. But the question remains: how far will they fall down the field? How close will it be? As we're going to go to a track cam, Kevin Boss, and see if we can get some clarification on what happened there with the 202 at a later date, because it looked weird. I thought he just got turned around, but maybe you guys saw something a little bit differently there. But otherwise, just a rough day for the 202 all around, I think is the best we can say about that. Frustrating night for them.
Yeah, just looking here, Jesse, is a massive lag They were far behind the group in front, and next minute they lagged and ended up in the with the group in front. So I'm not too sure exactly why that happened, but they look like they teleported a few seconds into the future.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've not seen that. I actually haven't seen that one before. That is the first time I've seen something. We see people have connections issues. The whole new thing in ACC where they get teleported to the pit lane and then back onto the track because the server to client connection doesn't know where they are. So very odd indeed for what happened there. But we'll leave that up to the stewards to see. Because that most likely will pop up as a contact for them, so they'll be able to review that. But nothing for us to really worry about.
Your eye's better than mine. I saw the spin. I didn't see what led up to that. I was very perplexed, but there you have it. That will happen. And the other thing about that is that's frustrating, but it's hard to give a penalty for that as well. It's not something that we typically see a penalty given for, even if you spin another car, because it's not your fault. It's out of your control. The stewards only give penalties when they can deem that somebody was out of line. Your connection is not something you necessarily have the utmost control over. So it's just unfortunate. No position will be afforded to them either for that. It's one of those things. It's treated like a mechanical failure, essentially, things like that.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit of flashing from the 255. They are in front of the 38. Ignore the time on the left. Obviously, they got in front. Coming up to the bus stop chicane, there is a timing line just before that, which can throw it off if you're trying to overtake or undertake, if you like, going into that chicane. And there you go. They've gone past the next timing line. It's 3.7, but that Aston Martin wants to get past these two next Aston Martins as quickly as possible because they want to keep that lead. They only got half a second gap between fourth place. They are now third place at 255. The 776 did pit, puts them back into seventh place, and they didn't take tyres either. 53.4. That's even quicker than the 89, Jesse.
Ooh.
So very fast. Quick stop. Quick stop. Yeah, we're going to call it a quick stop now.
I mean, it absolutely is a quick stop. Gorka in P7, they didn't fall too far. Yeah, they were in third prior to that, but that was an artificially inflated position for them to stay inside the top 10 and well inside the top 10, mind you. It is really good for the Williams team. They've certainly fought today inside the top 10 and done a really good job, and I think they've converted that strategy of pitting later and done something nice with it. It's just about 7 seconds to Alexander Lay in sixth place. I think the more concerning thing for them is Olivier in eighth place, who is less than 4 seconds behind in the number 39 car. So that'd be what I'd be more concerned about. But if I'm Philip Minard, the only thing I'm concerned about is Michael Molning right behind me right now for the final podium spot. Could the car that dominated a large part of the day not even finish on the podium? Would that be, in your mind, Ted Edwards, considered a disaster?
I wouldn't call it a disaster. I'd call it, it'd be annoying because you put all that effort in, you've been there for the whole time, and then for some reasons that, it could be driver errors, could be, not getting into the pit box, as we call it, straight up. You get into the pit box and you just lift straight on the jacks without moving you. They could have got moved a few times, and all that just accounts to time loss. And yeah, I wouldn't call it the worst thing. It is definitely annoying, but third or fourth place is still really good, especially with the level of drivers here, the skill they've got. I'd be happy with the fourth place. But just looking at Osterman and Gromwald, their lap times, Osterman's almost half a second slower than Gromwald. So it's very interesting to see why the 89 Lamborghini is that much slower than the Aston Martin. But it's one of those things. The Aston Martin, after so many laps, sticking behind them and just chilling, waiting to see what happens. They were like, okay, we're faster, and they've proved it to be right there. But almost about 5 seconds ahead of P2 now.
The scariest moments of the race are always the waning ones, where every decision you make has added importance. You make a mistake in the first lap, the first hour, the first half, you have time to scramble, you have time to recover, you have time to strategize, you have time to work through it. Make that mistake in the final 30 minutes, there's no chance of recovery. And if you're the driver that makes that mistake, you get to feel awful. You feel awful about that. And in the case of this series, you feel awful about that for an entire month. You have to think about that. And you do as a driver. You think about forget all the times you've won, not important. As a driver psychology dictates that you agonize over every defeat and dismiss your wins, because that's what racing drivers do. I don't know why, but that is the way it is. If you make a mistake now, you carry that with you for an entire month until you have sort of alleviate that by avenging that at some point in the future. And there's going to be a lot of teams today that are going to want to forget this race ever happened. There's going to be a couple of teams that are going to be absolutely thrilled. Whether they win it or not, BS Plus Competition has to be happy about the way that they've come into this race, started outside the top 10, and looked like they're going to get a podium finish out of this. If you're Tobias Grunwald, if you are Renwelton 71, you're thrilled because you didn't start on pole. You didn't necessarily have the best car early on, but you kept working at it. Other cars fell by the wayside, made mistakes. You didn't, and you ascended to the lead where you're most likely to be found anyway, and most comfortable. On top of that, if you are Philip Minar and you've dominated this race, what must you think? If you finish third, oh well, maybe we got a little outpaced as the cooler temperatures come in and the sun went down. Maybe we got outpaced by some cars that came alive or had to come back from adversity today. We couldn't have predicted that. But if you don't finish on the podium, you might consider it a little bit frustrating. Some will, some won't. If you're Michael Moning, this is gravy. You make this position up, you put the STR Esports car on the podium. If you don't, it's still a top 5. It's funny how the same position, Ted, and this is the point I'm getting at, folks at home. It's funny how the same position can mean something completely different to different teams.
Yeah, sure can, Jesse. Just looking here, back at the previous races, obviously, the 255 competition car, second place and a fifth place, Carlami and Silverstone. So, you know, it's not bad where they are at the minute.
Not the end of the world.
No,
I don't mean to imply it's the end of the world. It's just that if I led 3/4 of the race and didn't finish on the podium, I would probably be frustrated with myself.
And this is where your mood changes. This is where you might feel a bit down, a bit not with it, and that's what you don't want to get. I had that at Kyle Army round 1 for the community series, and I binned it into the wall multiple times, and I was not in the right space to drive, and changed that for the next 2 races, and we're doing a lot better. You've got to keep focused. You've got to just keep going, and these guys know how to control it better than I can, essentially. But just looking back here with the 38, they're in 21st in the minute. They had a 22nd place at round 1 at Kalami and a 19th at Silverstone. They're 4th place right now. They must be on cloud 9. They're like, yeah, we've got 28 minutes left. P4 is still great. This is great for points. This is going to move us probably quite high up. The fight with the other teams with more points. Whereas if you're the 71 on the other hand, this will be the 3rd race in a row you've won.
Yeah, they'll certainly start to look like champion-elect after this. I think we have to agree. And if you disagree, it's math. It's basic math. You win half the races in the championship, you start to look pretty good. You start to feel pretty good. And it's the way they've won. They've dominated. They've come back. They've not always been the car in control of the pace, but they've never wavered. They've never faltered. They've made excellent decisions, has Renwell. They know how to win championships at a high level. And they have continued that trend here today. BS Plus Competition gave them a run for their money. 255 competition gave them a run for their money today. But looking like in the end here, final 30 minutes, they have risen to the occasion once again. And this fight for P3, not over, but you'll notice something about STR Esports, Michael Moaning. Not too much pressure on the back of Minar right now. Not following too closely, not putting themselves in a bad spot or a bad situation. That's a calm, relaxed driver behind the wheel of that Ford Mustang. And I would say Philip Minar, similar position. Not too concerned with Moaning right now. Not close enough to do anything about it. Probably more concerned about the lap traffic than anything else. Being put in a bad situation themselves rather than Moaning putting them in a bad situation. And that's sort of considerations you have to make this late in a race where you're lapping a bunch of cars. But other than that, not a lot of pressure, not a lot of reason for concern. At the end of the day, these drivers have been here. They've done this before. They know that if you are Philip Minar, Moaning's got to come up here and make this pass, and they've got to do it cleanly. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem. If you're Moaning, well, I've got to make, they know the same thing. I got to make this pass cleanly, or it doesn't matter if I make it at all. So those two things considered, somehow, despite the waning hour, despite the importance of a podium finish here for points, there isn't a whole lot of stress right now. Ask me again in about 15 minutes, though, it'll probably be a different answer.
Yeah, it's one of the things, each minute things can change, but yeah, these guys are doing very well. The back markers are behaving very nicely as well. Like look at that, the Aston Martin staying on the outside and then going to the inside for the next car, getting out of the blue flags. And it was the same for the Mustang behind, coming out of the toe, going to the hill. They moved out of the way for both of these two cars that we are watching now. So it's just sportsmanship at the end of the day. Maybe your race hasn't gone well, but don't make someone else's race end up worse. Is the thing. You know you can get penalties for it and stuff, and you don't want to get that. You don't want to ruin someone else's race. You don't want to make enemies. That's not the whole reason why we're here. We're here to race. We're here to have a good time. The drivers are fine with each other. You have a rivalry in the race. Out of the race, you're a friend. That's the whole thing about this, and it's this is why we do this for all you guys as well. This is why we host community races and our weekday races. It's just to bring everyone together. You can have a rivalry. I have a rivalry with Les Stevenson, and I have one with Mike Reffers sometimes. After he stole my race number, and I had to change it. But anyway. Yeah, it's just a bit of fun at the end of the day, and you get frustrated in the race, you just got to drop it. We'll just get out of it, and move on to the next one.
Yes, indeed. Of course, this round coming to an end. I think the overarching storyline of today was BS Plus competition driving through the top 10 and doing it in a quick but also somewhat methodical manner. We didn't notice big incidents inside the top 10 early on that took out some heavy hitters, some big competitors, and paved the way for some of the dominant cars of the day. And this car we were riding on board with, Moaning, they were in the middle of almost every incident early on. And when I say in the middle, I don't mean they were involved. I mean they drove around it, but it happened around them to the point where they had to miss the incident. And look where they are now, fighting for a podium spot here at the end. I don't know if that's a sign to buy a lottery ticket or not, but they've certainly avoided all the calamity around them, and they look to be getting a just reward here with a fantastic finish. You talk about these drivers being competitors on the racetrack. Keep in mind, folks at home, most of these drivers, I would say the vast majority, 2/3 of the field at least, they compete against each other every week. This is the creme de la creme. This is the top of the heap of esports for ACC, a lot of these teams. They compete against each other almost every weekend. They know each other. Sometimes they may not like each other quite so much, but they're not new. They're not having to go into every corner guessing what they're going to do. They sort of have an idea of how they're going to be raced. Everybody, I mean, you do that, Ted, don't you? Oh, and it's a sin. It's a sin. Stamakovic rather, for Brabham Esports, not taking no for an answer in the toe, and gets a flash of the lights there. Very
Yeah.
scary moment indeed.
It's the same for us, like me and Kevin, for instance. I don't know how Kevin drives. Kevin knows how I drive, and he probably be out of the way if I look like I'm going to send it into a corner. But we know each other's paces. We know what we're like, and you know he's sometimes better in cars than I am, and sometimes I'm a bit quicker than he is. But and then you shove Jordan Daly into the mix, and we're both screwed on that bit. But we just know how each of our races. We know a lot of the community members and how they race, and yeah, it's just you just learn. Even if you don't know someone, sit behind their car, follow them for a bit, and see what they do. If they're slower than you, try and go for a move. Try and find the gap. Try and find where they're weak, and you'll understand how they drive. It might be either because they're under pressure from you behind, might just be because that's how they drive. But you can learn so much from someone, even if they're quicker than you. Follow them. I follow Jordan Daly quite a bit in some of the races if I can stay with him, and he takes different lines. The same with Benjamin Harman. He's really quick, especially in iRacing in LMP2. Oh, cutting the curb there for the 39, but
That was scary for Olivier, yeah.
but yeah, you if you have someone that you can follow, or even watch, even if you watch these guys and see what they're doing, you can't see their inputs, but you can see what they're doing into corners, and you could probably take, even just watching this, you can take a bit of it and go, okay, that's what they're doing. And sometimes when we leave it on the on boards, when we go for a break, just watch their inputs, you can see that what the legs are doing in this game, which is nice. You can see what the steering wheel's doing, and as you see here, you just see the leg. You can see tapping the brakes and lifting on the throttle, and they're not putting too much turn in. He's probably off throttle now, and he's gonna get back onto the throttle to come out of this corner. A bit harder to see in the dark than in the day, but you know, just watching someone helps you a lot. Even if you're on the same pace with that person, they might be better than you in some of the bids. That was sliding.
That was unnerving ever so slightly for a car that far up the field, but still within control. They will have not thought too much of that, though it looked a bit scary. It probably wasn't for the time. They just probably didn't want to go over there and get that curb. But I just want, for the benefit of folks at home, our broadcaster, we can hear him in our head, but you can't hear him. When Ted said that Kevin Boss, our broadcaster, would probably get out of the way, he said he wouldn't, and I think I've worked out why. I think Kevin Boss has a penalty report fetish and loves to fill out the form. So I think that's why he doesn't get out of the way personally, but that's on me. I do also have an additional comment. Actually, Les Stevenson has an additional comment joining us as the Fat Stick in chat. Kevin Boss drives the largest rear-end cars in ACC. Kevin Boss, Les Stevenson says, you got a little bit of a dumpy. Don't know what to make of that. I don't, well, Kevin Boss accepts that endorsement. Kevin Boss only drives cars with junk in that trunk, I think they say, Ted.
Well, yes, I believe that is true, Jesse. Yeah, he sometimes is a little bit difficult to get around. When you're trying to pass him, he just like to park it on the apexes, and he does make that car as wide as he possibly can. Just looking here, we do have a report coming from Sexiest Man in RCI, Grim Lilith. Incident on lap 184, turn 1 involving the 27 and the 74. 5 seconds for car 74. Blue flag infringement over an entire lap, Jesse. Haven't seen that one before. As I was just commending them on.
Goodness gracious! Sorry to interrupt, but
close.
that was a code brown moment and a half. They somehow don't make contact. Louis Fleischer giving up a position to Zimbel. Zimbel now caught on the outside. Fleischer down the inside trying to retake P20, and he's not going to be able to do it. Zimbel now on the inside of the racetrack, rejoining the short course, and he'll do it. He'll be able to finally take control of that spot. Is Zimbel. I feel like these two, in some capacity, have been fighting over around the 20th place this entire race, but right now it belongs to that number 6 car. But only just after all of that, Vincenzo getting that spot for now.
Yeah, looks like they are being blue flagged, maybe? I don't know. Is that that's the number 1 car behind,
Yeah, that's the West
who's in
competition
10th
car.
place? They, even though they're fighting, don't they have to give that position up if it's within...
So you just read the penalty report, and I wanted to expand on that for the folks at home. Blue flag infringement over an entire lap is exceedingly dangerous,
God.
just
Oh,
like
there
this
you
run.
go.
Oh, and it's going to go wrong. Too wide. They made it halfway through the turn, but you got to make it all the way to make it out. Louis Fleischer and looks like Zimbel go synchronized spinning in the center of the bus stop, and more scary moments as Fleischer attempts to rejoin in the darkness. Cars coming around an almost blind corner, but it looks like they've all been able to survive it. But a moment there that's going to take both of those cars seemingly out of the fight for the top 20. But back to my original point, blue flag infringement over the course of a lap, you have a sector or so to give way to a car that is within about 3/10 of you. So if that car is on you, so to speak, and you do not yield as a blue flagged car within a sector or so, you are putting yourself at risk of getting that penalty. If you do it for more than a lap, you start to talk about maybe penalty increases as well. So they gave the 74 5 seconds for blue flag infringement over the course of a lap. So that's to me, that's getting off easy in my opinion. But
it does mean though the 62 is now within striking distance of the 74. They were about 5 seconds a few laps ago, but now they come back. So if you just gave up the position to the faster car, you wouldn't have the 5 seconds, and you can still fight for 13th place. And that's the thing. Like, yes, you could be faster, but if you're not going faster than the car that's going to lap you from behind, you need to give way. You need to let them through. There's no point risking a penalty. And I don't know if those 2 cars that we just saw that had the spin might get a penalty if it's reported. Obviously, we saw the Aston Martin come back on just before the carousel. They looped it back round, but they almost had a collision with these 2 cars here, the 3rd and 4th place, and that would have not been good. Maybe they can get a penalty for the rejoin. Just have to wait and see what the report is, see what the stewards say. But yeah, that was. I think these drivers probably need some new overalls, Jesse.
Well, you were talking about Staminkovic being really close to Sauer in the 74, and they would indeed, if they finish like this with these gaps, Staminkovic would actually take the 13th place position. Staminkovic just got themselves another interesting penalty that you don't see all of the time, and that's a warning for an aggressive overtake. So no contact made. Usually what happens when you get a penalty, or a warning in this case, for an aggressive overtake, that means that you have made a lunge or a move that did not result in contact, but also could have probably resulted in contact, or one that was potentially unsafe to do, and maybe the car you were overtaking saw and had to take avoiding action. All of these are ways to get an aggressive overtake. You can overtake aggressively and not get a penalty, but getting that penalty, it would indicate to me that a driver has made another car take avoiding action, or has made a move from too far back, all of which did not cause a contact. But that doesn't make it okay just because there's not contact. Moaning gonna go to the outside defensive line from Minar. He knew what he had to do. As close as you like, through the bus stop chicane. Right on the back of that Aston was that Ford Mustang, but could not scare Philip Minar off the line or off of the curb, and they stay 3-4 the way that they run. Philip Minar, they are able to finish on the podium here. You might feel like you've won this race still after that. That was as close as you can get. Michael Moaning drove in there with a hope, a prayer, and somehow no contact, no injury. We saw that just a few laps ago, Ted, go the other way, synchronized spinning. Nothing doing there, just good racing.
It looks like Aston coming out of the bus stop then was sliding the rear. Mustang not. Looks like Minar is pushing that Aston as hard as they can. looks like their tyres are on the edge of not really giving what they want anymore, and that Mustang's just chilling. It's just like, oh, I'm faster on the straights, I'll just try and get you up to the bus stop. If I can't, then I'll just slot in behind and let you ruin your tyres a little bit more, because the speed that they got coming up the hill through the S's onto the straight was crazy. It's just so quick, and I'm not sure if it's the 255's getting a bad run out of turn 1 as we are in turn 1 now, but if we just watch from the rear view camera, let's see if the Mustang could do what they just did, where they can gain that time. They're
He's already
4 tenths
gaining.
behind. It's like, look at this. I know there's slipstream, but
Oh, baby.
it's just, and then they have to go offline. They are still offline. This is way
Oh,
offline.
that's awkward
Oh my
entry there
God.
for Michael Moaning. It was non-committal by Minar, who did not really make a move. Moaning assumed that at some point Philip Minar was going to move. He doesn't, and he sort of stays wishy-washy in the middle of the racetrack. Oh, he was in the middle of the racetrack. He was on the defensive line, but Michael either assumed that Minar was going to move to the left or the right a little bit more definitively, and I use Pokemon terms here. Philip Minar cast confusion. It was super effective against Moaning because he didn't know where that Aston was going, and that nearly was about an accident. But what is that old? I think there was an old TV show, Seconds Away from Disaster, or Seconds from Disaster, or something like that. That's what that was. But they both get out with another opportunity, and now. Hey, you remember about 50 minutes ago I said that there was no panic in either of those two camps, but ask me again in 15? It's been about 15 minutes since I said that, and look what happened in 2 consecutive laps.
Yeah, it's just looking at where 5th place is with 32 Herbert. He's 16 seconds behind 4th place, so 15 now. They've dropped a second in a lap, Jesse. So 10 minutes left. You need more than a second a lap to catch these two drivers, and I don't even at this level. I don't think they'll be able to do this to get the time down that quickly, unless something happens. Not saying what. It's not my. I'm not here to curse anyone's race, but just have to wait and see. With the driving they're doing, the minute going into the bus stop, obviously this is going to be a little bit different. The Lamborghini, who is now a back marker, needs to yield to the Aston Martin. They do. Will they yield to the Mustang quickly? They didn't really get out of the way. They just kept to their line. They can do. They let them through before the corner. But
he's not close enough, even by blue flag rule standards here. He's not close enough to have to, and he realizes that. And whenever the Mustang gets there, when STR gets there, he will do. But wasn't quite close enough as that battle cools off for the time being. They'll have to reconnect it. I mean, again, said this before, I'll say it again. If you're Michael, you caught him once, you can do it again, surely, here in the final 9 minutes of the race. Well, we have been treated to some race today. We've had many different leaders, and up until the last hour and a half, who was going to be the winner seemed very much in doubt. It's not all done. We're not handing out the hardware yet. 9 minutes left to go. A 9-second gap first to second. If Renwelton 71 makes any mistake at all, that could spell disaster. And I hate to play devil's advocate. That's a lie. I love playing devil's advocate, so I'm going to say it out loud. Isn't it suspicious that nobody has got a drive-through for track limits today in the waning moments? We've had one drive-through that we know is for track limits, but other than that, isn't it suspicious that nobody else has run afoul of track limits today in this 6-hour race?
Well, don't forget about a puncture, Jesse. I know a few teams were really pushing their cars last weekend, and they got very close. I think one team had 0.00 where...
Oh, he's over the grass!
That was very close.
He's not done. We're not out of the woods.
Oh, this is... Oh, the Mustang checks up. Brecher has a little bit of slide saves it, though. That was a little bit...
This is for position? No, it isn't.
No. Oh, there we go. So, but yeah, a puncture is something that could possibly happen. The 111 is in pit lane, by the way. Not sure why down in 30th
Might have been
position.
fuel miscalculation.
Could be, Jesse. Yeah, that is something that some drivers don't really think about. or maybe they don't have another teammate there. They're on their own. They're just trying to wing it with what they think could be the right amount of fuel. But yeah, very unfortunate for that car there. But yeah, one team had 0.000%, so nowhere on the inside of the tyre, not across the tyre.
Williams Academy has just, sorry to interrupt, Williams Academy has just looped it in the carousel. They've got back going. I suspect they've lost it exiting the bus stop. They've ended up in the carousel. The 776 has got back going, and now they're coming through the chute. But there was a waved yellow there for a little while. If you want to do a minute replay, I reckon you could grab it. But they are losing positions. They've lost 2 spots because of that incident. But they've looped it. They were backwards. I don't see any noticeable damage, but even if they didn't hit the wall, they have lost 2 spots. They were running 7th. They were solidly inside the top 10. And now down to 9th place, and potentially with damaged tires here with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, I know Daly, he drove for me and Kevin last weekend, and he had a slide from a little tap, and he said for that one stint, even though he didn't need to double stint them, he said these tires ruined. Like, I'm not getting the pace that I know I can do, and I have been doing. And he was only 4 tenths off his pace, but 4 tenths, especially with these guys, is a lot of time per lap. And so yeah, so especially if a lot of these teams are double stinting now, and you slide them, you can really ruin them. You can make those pressures go below the 26 psi limit, because obviously Kunos changed it, so 26 to 27 is the range. And
oh my goodness! Off of the racetrack is Zimble. Zimble nearly losing the position, but gets back on the defensive line, rejoining the old circuit. And that was very strange that Zimble went that deep. Sorry to interrupt again. That scared me. I was alarmed.
I expected with 5 minutes left to go.
Oh!
If that Lamborghini hit that wall, then I think that would have been both cars.
They're going to hit each other is what they're going to do.
It.
Zimble and Fleischer. Fleischer down the inside should have the easy position. Watch for the crossover move. I don't think it's on. I think Fleischer has retaken that position, but I've said that a few times today. They keep trading that spot back and forth, but they're slowing each other up. And here comes Philippe Breccia.
Car 44 is in the pit lane, Jesse, as well. Another car coming down pit lane. Yeah, probably, again, fuel. I don't see any... I think if someone got a puncture, we would see a yellow flag with a spin, because...
it'd be hard to control it, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, especially here, yeah, like you say, steering's heavy because of the bank corners. You're going to lose the car, I would say. Unless you're really lucky and you're already going slow. But obviously, Breccia's trying to make a move on the number 6. Was just chilling, watching the guys in the front fight. Got popcorn out, watching the cinema, but now they're out.
Oh my goodness! You're off the racetrack. He's not going to be able to stop right there. But somehow gets it rolled up big big. And he's still hounding the back of Zimble, trying to get by, unable to do so. The frustration mounting for Breccia. He could see a top 20 finish, and now it's driving away. It's disappearing in the form of Fleischer in the 55.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight with 3 minutes 20 left on the clock. There's 38 on the 25, P3 to P4 is.
Oh, it's a defensive move, a late defensive move there. Lights flashing on Breccia's number 769. And, I just hope this doesn't end in tears. This is getting a bit too chaotic for my taste. Trying to go around the outside. You can't do that in the S's. He's going to go into the wall. Philippe Breccia into the wall in the S's. Luckily, that car not for position, but again, now he's got to repass that Mustang.
I wonder what happened there. I know because of the bop, the Bentley's, I think, got quite a bit of weight taken off, and it does get a little bit wiggly on the rear. And obviously, they got into the marbles, which is not where you want to go in any car. Drags you out wide. They tried to put the turn on, and he just slid the rear, tapped and luckily saved it. I think I would have ended up hitting the other wall as well and got a lot more damage than it is. But very unfortunate there. But yeah, it's what happens when you take the Bentley, a car that's not favoured in the normal BOP in the game, and you have to tweak it. And unfortunately, it does make it a little bit more twitchy on the rear end of that car. Some of the other cars are like that when you either add or take away. If you add, normally you get the understeer, but yeah, it's very unfortunate. But still got quite a few fights going on. Quite a lot of cars in a second of each other. But yeah, going.
We've got 2 laps to go. The leader will get the white flag. 1 lap to go this time through, but they've just started another lap. They're up at the bus stop now. So 1.5 laps to go if you're the leader, 2 laps to go if you're just about everybody else. And that's music to the ears of a couple of cars. And that is the worst thing you could tell some of these other cars.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. Breccia back into about half a second to the Lamborghini. Definitely got the pace on that car. They just need to make the move. The leader is in the tow, so I think there'll be another lap after. So we'll just have to see what Breccia can do. Losing a bit of time on the exit of the bus stop. We have P25 on P24 hit both hitting the wall. I think both hit the wall, or at least the Lamborghini
They got real
did.
close if they didn't.
BMW saying anything inside, Lamborghini on the outside. Let's see what they can do here. Is there going to be a switchback? Sort of, but
He got a better run. He's there. He's in there.
What's going to happen through the S's? We've seen this already with Breccia.
Fabrizio Campanella goes the long way around the outside there, sticks it down into turn 1 and up the S's. He fights his way through, and now he has the inside position. It's a dead heat between the 2 of them. They're going to go in there 2 wide. Can they survive? Only just. They're still side by side. They exit side by side. Fabrizio Campanella for Visceral Esports somehow makes up the spot on Paul and gets it done mostly in a clean manner. And that was as sketchy as you like, but some really well-held driving by both Campanella and Paul.
That was amazing. Oh, Breccia, it looks like they got slightly ahead of the Lamborghini. Oh, they pushed.
Oh my
Breccia
goodness, it's the same thing.
Mustang.
That happened a few laps ago, but less dramatically.
Yeah, it looks like Breccia got a little bit squeezed. Not for me to say. Mustang saying, can you guys stop fighting? Can you just run away from me now, please? You're getting in my way. Flashing those lights. Yeah, very unfortunate there. Not long left to go. The leader is coming out of the tow. Only 4 corners left to go, Jesse Lee. What a lead.
Yes, indeed. What a race it's been for Renwelton. They've been all over the place, strategizing, fighting, clawing back, trying to outfox the 255, and then it was the 89, and somehow they remain the car at the front of this field, and by some margin, 18.6 seconds. It was Tobias Grunwald with his teammates in the 71 for Renwelton that were in the driver's seat all day. They orchestrated their own success here today, and they're going to win the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. Tobias Grunwald and Renwelton go 3 for 3 in the RCI 6-hour Esports Series.
You sure do. Still, we got this fight going on. None of the top guys are still fighting. They will cross the line where they are sitting. 2 more corners to go for these 2 cars. Will they make it? Or will they end up in a wall together? Looks like the Lamborghini stays in front unless they get Bentley gets a better exit, but no, they won't.
Close racing there, and nope, didn't get it. 45 100ths of a second at the line, and some other battles finishing up and have done. Jacob Osterman brings the BS Plus competition number 89 Lamborghini down for 2nd place, and Philip Maynard survives and saves the day for the 255 competition. Aston Your pole-sitting car will get a podium spot here today. Ended up gapping Michael Moaning and STR Racing, and Philip Minar and that whole team third place. Moaning fourth, Shemansky fifth in the 32 Ferrari, Lay in the 27 Mustang in sixth, Leon Burnt in seventh, Olivier in the 39 in eighth, Gorka we just saw will come across the line in ninth. And here is Manos Gerardis for West Competition Racing, the epitome of a quiet, calm race for them. We'll see them finish inside the top 10. Final couple of positions coming to the line. Emmanuel Tajadin will finish us off and complete the RCI 6 hours of Watkins Glen. Results confirmed on your screen, pending any post-race penalties. There were a couple more that did come through at the very end. Actually, just the one. It was a racing incident on lap 193 between the 55 and the 6, deemed both drivers at fault there. I think that was the incident in the bus stop, and it was. And I can't help but to agree. Results scrolling on your screen. Ted, sum up the day.
Chaos, chill, chaos is how I would put it. No, it's really good. The racing was, as I expected from these drivers, aggressive at times, but that's what you expect. They're racing for prizes and for the team, but also respectful, especially with some of the back markers. There was one that wasn't, but we'll skip them, bless them. But no, there's so much sportsmanship that goes on in esports, and obviously in the community stuff as well. Don't forget about them. We don't always show them. We don't always have time to broadcast all of the stuff, but it is a lovely thing, sim racing, and you saw it here today. Was relaxing in the middle when we both joined for the comms, and then yeah, I think my voice is going, Jesse.
It will do. It will do exactly that. It's wow, what a day. I'm trying to wrangle drivers for interviews here at the end of this one, and this is it's a moment where everybody it's a moment where you get to relax. If you've won the race, if you finished on a good position, or maybe you had a comeback drive, there were a couple of cars that did. Maybe you beat your expectations today. You're feeling pretty good. And on the flip side of that, if you've had a really bad day, you're just happy it's over. You saw the checkered flag, and you get to move on, and that's what you're really looking forward to in a race like this. We're going to talk to Philip Minar. Philip, do you want to bring in any of your other teammates, or you just want to do the interview yourself?
My teammate is very limited in English, and he
hey
asked
man,
me to.
Hey man, so am I, but that's okay. I completely understand. Philip, what a race it was. You on the front row to start it out. You were in a battle, it felt like, all day long, and in the end, you get a podium out of it. How do you feel about your 6 hours today?
Honestly, a bit gutted, and I'm still kicking myself over my mistake in the first lap, or the second last stint. But it happens, and yeah, we had good pace, and unfortunately, I had a lot of damage after that collision. So it was a really hard push trying to keep Michael behind me the last few laps. Really hard push. But yeah, I don't think we had anything against Jakob and Louis in terms of pace, especially today. It's insane. But yeah, it's bittersweet for me, at least, for this race.
You have to think that you drove incredibly well. I mean, it was fantastic watching you mix it up with a lot of drivers inside the top 5. Their strategy going back and forth as well. Was there any point where you felt like you were ahead of the strategy or behind the strategy today, or were you chasing, or were you comfortable in what you were doing out there in the pit lane? How did that aspect of the race go?
Honestly, we just kind of winged it. In the strategy. Usually we do double stint on one set twice, and then new set at the end of the race. But since this was this race transitioned into nighttime, we thought, why not minimize tire wear? So we went with a double stint in colder temps, and it seemed to work until we had some human errors in the end. But yeah, like I said, we just winged it and it turned out pretty well.
There you go. Ted Edwards, do you have anything for 255 competition?
Well, I'd just like to say congrats on the P3. You did very well to hold off the car behind, and yeah, I wouldn't be able to do what you do. I'd probably buckle under the pressure, especially when they're that close and trying to make moves into the bus stop. But no, you did very well. Don't be down. I would take a third place very well. You know, it's not easy 6 hours racing, especially at your guys' level. Like, I'd love to be as quick as you can. But yeah, no, very well done, and not really any questions. Just want to congratulate you.
Oh, thanks,
Well,
I appreciate it.
Well, before we let you go, Philip, plug the team, plug all the guys and gals that helped get you here. Let us know who you represent.
Yeah, I'd like to say a huge thanks to Boris, to Fred, to my team at Ablatze, obviously, and our sponsors ACC Drive and LFM, and and everyone watching. Thank you to everyone watching and everyone behind the broadcast team, and thanks for putting up a good show.
Well, there you go. We couldn't do it without you guys. You guys are the real show. Philip Minar and 255 competition P3 getting a trophy out there today, doing it the hard way. Congrats.
Thank you, Chess.
Moving on, third place up to second place. And what a day it was for Jacob Osterman and Lewis Roders. What a race. You had the penalty because you joined mid-season, started outside the top 10, drove all the way up there, led for a little bit. My goodness, drive of the day, I think most of us would agree. Osterman, your take on today's race. It looked fun, was it?
Yeah, it was very fun. Of course, first congratulations to the Rennwelten car, to Tobias and Basti for winning the race, and of course also to the 255 car for third place. Yeah, it was like a day with up and downs. We weren't quite happy with our qualifying. So starting P13 was a bit of a down, but then after Lewis's great start, gaining a lot of positions, and in the end, after second stint being, yeah, I mean, it was always a question if we are second or third with the pit stop stun, because the Rennwelten car already did the first double stint in the first stint. We decided to do it later on because of the huge tire wear on this track. Yeah, but sadly, as colder as it got, the more the Aston got alive and the more we lost our front. And yeah, especially now in the last two stints, our front tires were just way too cold. So we sadly didn't have the grip anymore to keep up with the Aston.
There you have it. Lewis, I got to ask, what is it about BS Plus competition where you're always in the mix? You can never count them out. No matter where this team starts, you can always count that you're going to play a factor in the finish. Why is that? How is that?
Yeah, basically, I mean, we just had luck this race to collect many cars who made contact in the first stint. But yeah, especially for Jakob and myself joining BS Plus competition and then doing the first race here, or the first official endurance race, it was definitely a good shot for us. And yeah, I think we achieved more than we ever expected during this race. So yeah, after the first hour we thought, okay, let's fight for P3, and then in the end fighting for P1 probably, and then just losing the front end was just more than we expected, and we are very happy about it.
I love it. I knew as soon as you guys joined, you were going to factor in immediately. I could have never have guessed though that you would have come back from outside the top 10 and done that much damage in such a short period of time. Just brilliant driving. I'm going to hand you over to Ted Edwards.
Oh, question for both of you. How is the Lamborghini now? Obviously, there's a bop in place. A few communities use a bop now, obviously, to make things a bit more fairer. How is the Lamborghini now? Because when it first came out, it was okay. It was sort of there, and then it sort of just dropped off, and not many people obviously use it because there was better cars out there. How is it now compared to what it was before?
I think that's hardly track dependent, as we have a different bop on every track. Like on some tracks, one car is more on the bop than the other car, but it will just be a matter of time until all the cars are within like a tenth. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was always a struggle in the Lamborghini for qualifying. it wasn't that hard of a struggling quali today, but we always could shine with our proper race pace in a Lamborghini, and luckily we did that today as well.
Yeah, well, you did amazing in the race today. Like you say, P13 to P2 is just something that not many people can do in, even in a good bopped car, for instance. That's, always up there sort of thing. But no, very well done indeed, and especially with the tire wear on this track, it feels nice to drive until the tire wear hits. But no, congratulations on P2.
Awesome. And Rodders, anybody you want to thank the team, the people that get you here?
Yeah, I would like to thank BS Plus Competition to let us join, and then I would like to thank Jakob for having a really good time today. And yeah, of course, every sponsor and you for the good stream, and also to Toby, Basti, and also to the 5 competition for a very, very good race. It was a lot of fun. So thanks to all of you.
There you have it, folks. P2 today, probably going to be a factor before this championship is over. Jakob Osterman, Lewis Rodders with us. BS Competition, P2. Congrats, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brilliant job for them, and an immaculate one for our winners today. Tobias Grunwald, Bastian Richter join us from the 71 Ren Welton team. My goodness, Tobias started fourth, second row of the grid, had to work at it, had to dodge some incidents early, avoid some contact. Strategy came into play today. It was a little all over the place with cars inside the top 5. What made your strategy and your drive the winning one?
Yes, you said qualified fourth, I think was not ideal. I mean, there was an Aston on pole, so you could clearly see that there was more in the car, but I just didn't manage to get it out there today. But yeah, we knew we had good pace, and then we just put our head down and tried to avoid all the carnage, and there was quite some carnage at the beginning, to be honest. But luckily we survived more or less, and then, as you said, strategy was all over the place. We did one double stint at the beginning, which until 2 hours to go, I did not really believe that it was the right strategy. But Basti did an amazing first and also second stint, so we caught that back up, and then I was right behind Jakob, and then in the last 2 hours we managed to overtake them, and got a bit of a gap. I think 15 seconds or so at the end, which was quite good, and that I think made us win today.
Bastian, I've got to say, you came in and started picking up the pieces of what you needed to get done. And I mean, together, you guys work so well as a team. But at some point in your stint in the middle there, did you start realizing, oh, we can go up here and win this race?
Yeah, well, after the first stint or the first double stint, I wasn't expecting that because we were in traffic all the time, and we expected other people to do double stints as well. So we went for the track position initially. But yeah, since they didn't double stint, we were full in traffic. And in the last stint for me, so it was like the 4th stint overall, I had some clean air, and then I saw the gap to the front, and I was always looking like, okay, I have a 15-second gap to the leaders, and I have 15 laps to go. And they were double stinting. They had the old tires, I had new tires, and so I was just hot lapping the whole stint. And I was hoping that we could catch them. It was always a bit back and forth, but yeah, I think overall we just had a great setup in the long run, and then Tobias did a great double stint at the end.
What is it? This is a question for both or either of you. What do you think makes this Ren Welton 71 so special? Obviously, you two as drivers work really well together, and you're very similar pace wise, and you just get the job done. But that's the surface level sort of inspection of what's going on. Why is this team so great?
I think in the preparation, it's that we always make a great focus on the race pace and also like the long runs and the tire wear and so on. So especially with the double stints we have in this series, we know, okay, the qualifying isn't that important and we need a good race pace, and so we always make a setup for that. And yeah, then also in the last years we just learned we need to stay clean and consistent. So we are always looking for like good and consistent races and laps instead of like one good lap and then maybe one bad lap where you do a mistake again because the setup is too much on the edge or so. So I guess it's just that, yeah, race focused approach we have.
Tobias, you've gone 3 for 3 so far. I think Bastion exemplified how I feel about how you guys have done. How do you feel? 3 for 3. Could you have ever dreamed of a better start?
No, to be honest. I mean, yeah, this year has been quite good for us. Also in SRO, we won quite some races, and yeah, for some reason, it just does not stop. So let's see how long it will go on. If you ask me, this can go on forever, but yeah, we will see. I mean, the others are strong as
I
well.
like it.
Yeah, the others are strong as well. But yeah, I think we just had the luck on our side also in the past couple of races, because being quick and stuff like that is one thing, but you, in the end, you need the luck. And probably you saw that today. There were 2 or 3 moments where it was almost done, where we almost crashed or were in an incident or something. And yeah, then obviously the win is out of reach. So I think, yeah, it's also a lot of luck at the same time, and we have that at the moment, which is great, obviously. So yeah, we just continue what we do, and yeah, let's see how many wins we can get still this season. But I hope some.
3 for 3 thus far. I'm going to turn you over to my partner, Ted Edwards.
Well, yeah, 3 for 3. How do you guys feel going into Monza in 4 weeks' time? Is it a track you guys think the Aston's going to be good at, or are you guys okay with Monza? Obviously, it's a simple track, but when you get racing on it, it's likes to chew tires sometimes.
Honestly, I don't know. I just know that the Aston sometimes has a bit tricky suspension. Also, like here in Watkins Glen, we had that as an issue, and in Monza with the chicanes, it can be pretty tricky to get a good and consistent car there. But also, we saw in the SRO race that the Aston can be quick there. Yeah, but it will be interesting also for the season, because there might be some lineup changes because there are some conflicting events taking place. So we have to see how it works out. But generally, I think, especially with the custom BOP we have, every car should be competitive, and so we just need to have a good preparation, good focus on the race, and then hopefully we will be up there again.
Oh, well, that hopefully you take a number 4. Not picking sides here, but that would be quite impressive.
I think you just did. I think you picked a
did.
side
Well,
right
you're
there,
28
Ted, unfortunately.
points in front of the 255 competition already. So how do you feel knowing you've got that many points? Obviously, yeah, you know, anything can happen in a race. Is that a bit more, you know, is that what's your mood going into the next race? Is it going to be a bit more chilled because you got that little buffer?
I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
yeah, Basti, go
No,
on.
go for it.
Okay, I think 28 points sounds a lot, but it can quite quickly get turn around. One incident or one DNF or one disconnect, whatever, can make a 28-point difference. So I think generally, yes, we can take it a bit easier, especially like with taking risks in the race. But in the end, preparation and trying to be as quick as possible is always going to stay the same. But we just have a bit more of a gap so that we can, we don't have to risk everything. And the others, to catch up, they probably will have to risk a bit more than us. And that usually is also an advantage, because you can just play it a bit more safe so that less can go wrong. And but generally the preparation stuff will stay the same.
Well, that's all my questions. Well, congrats on 3rd win of this season, and I wish you good luck in Monza.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you very
you.
much.
Quickly before you guys go, shout out the team and the people that helped get you here.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to the team. Also to the other teams from Van Velden who were driving today, and a big sorry again for our Van Velden for Ignite car. I think they had also the great pace today for the podium, and
Mm.
yeah, with the carnage we had at the beginning, I made a contact there as well. I don't think it was really avoidable, but yeah, it was a shame. But shout out to the team. Was a great preparation from everyone, and yeah, was good fun.
There you have it, folks. Your winners. Third time on the trot. Nobody's been able to best them to this point halfway in the season. Bastian Richter, Tobias Grunwald, winners for Ren Welton, number 71. Well, that's going to be just about it from us here at RCI today. Our next broadcast will be live with you on Monday for the continuation of the Porsche Cup. Live here on the RCI family of networks. We'll be live again on Wednesday for more Mazda Cup in iRacing as well. 2 rounds of that championship has been absolutely insane and unpredictable in every way, shape, or form. Some fantastic racing, 4 different main protagonists here at Watkins Glen today. And near the end, we were still unsure who was eventually going to end up our winner. At the end of the day, though, it's Ren Welton 71 with their 3rd victory of the season in a dominating way. They are certainly looking like champion-elect halfway through the season. We'll be back live for more 6-hour racing in 1 month's time in the middle of December, live from the Temple of Speed, Monza in Italy. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Ted Edwards with Kevin Boss behind the cameras. Earlier on, you had Les Stevenson and Matt Malcolm bringing you the descriptions and pictures of the game. Thank you so much for being with us today. Remember, you can go to racerci.com and sign up for any series, any event mid-season. You can even do what BS Plus Competition did and sign up for the Esports series mid, and providing you're a big enough team, take the penalty and finish on the podium somehow. Incredible stuff. Big thank you to IMB and all of our partners, Moza Racing, Go Setups, and AK Esports. For more on them and how you can help us help them, go to our website, racerci.com. Check out the schedule. Get involved. Race Porsche Monday Cup here on ACC. Race Mazda Cup on Wednesday with us. We'll be live either way. On behalf of all of us here at RCI, the stewards, the admins, the event managers, and the broadcast team, thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast. We hope that you've enjoyed. We'll see you next time. And until then, have a good night.